Present tonight, we have Councilman Wadman, Councilman Carn, Councilman Wilden, Councilman McComber, and Councilwoman Barton, so we do have a quorum. I've asked Councilman Wadman to lead us in our invocation, Councilman Carn to lead us in our pledge.
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this opportunity we have to be here in this beautiful park, this beautiful country, this beautiful state, and in the city we call home. We thank you for those people that support our efforts in the city to make it a place that we can call home, those that are in the city staff, those first responders, and those people that volunteer their time to better the city and better our lives. We ask you this evening that we can hear the voice of the public, that we can do what is in the best interest and make the best decisions that we possibly can, and do so in harmony with those around us. We ask you to watch and protect over us this evening, and we say these things in Jesus Christ's name.
Please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public input. Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns for subject matter not listed on the agenda or without a public hearing tonight. If you have public input, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please avoid negative comments. There's a total of 15 minutes. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Is anybody here for public input this evening? Okay, if you just take turns coming up. Nikki's got our official timer.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Robinson. I'm on 509 South Schoolhouse Road in Legacy Farms community, which is around 740 homes and families that live there. I just wanted to bring a big concern to all of us up to your guys' attention today, and just say that first off, we're very grateful and delighted and thrilled that Patriot Park was put in place in 2019. It's been an awesome resource for our community and family and friends. And I know many of you have played a big part in getting it built, and so we are grateful. But I know I speak for myself and our fellow community members that we have become more and more perplexed as year after year has passed without a proper crosswalk being constructed to get to this park. A crosswalk which we fully believed would be an obvious and safe measure that would be taken. Maybe it was just not going to happen this year or next year or the year after that, but we kept thinking it would eventually happen, but it never came. What we feel is this huge oversight and the lack of a safe crosswalk to our community has been an ongoing sense of frustration for these past 6 years. We love this park and the work the city's put into it, but we just feel unseen that our safety needs are not being met. To give you an idea of the current situation, numerous children and families cross 400 South each day between Schoolhouse Road and Patriot Park without a crosswalk in place. It's led to multiple close calls, including one where my own son was narrowly avoided getting run over just a few weeks ago. It obligates, unfortunately, some drivers to stop. They believe they're being very nice. These children believe it's safe, but the other lanes aren't stopping. It's obviously not a crosswalk. This has led to many close calls, obviously for my son, but to many others. I know many of our community residents have brought this past year over year, getting the same response. I've started to go through our community and our neighborhood. We're nearing 500 signatures on this petition to get a crosswalk built and recognized by the city. Every neighbor I've talked to in the city is in agreement of this dire need of safety here. And we also believe the reality is this isn't just going to benefit people in Legacy Farms, but for all Saratoga Springs residents traveling up and down 400 South. People want to do the right thing. People want to let people pass safely. It's just not possible at this time. We have a reason to believe also that this situation is only going to get more precarious. We understand that there's more and more community events happening. Take, for example, just the Easter egg competition that happened just a little while ago. It was, sorry, am I allowed to keep going for a second? No?
Nope. 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name's Lawrence Fontaine. I live at 517 South Pegasus Way in the Legacy Farm community as well. I've reached out to you guys numerous times on the same subject as far as crosswalk. I've sent an email. You guys told me there was a study done that was proving that it wasn't substantial, that you couldn't justify a crosswalk there. We cross that park multiple times a week, or that road to the park multiple times a week. I drive it multiple times a day. I see kids crossing, and like he said before, I may stop for the other kids, but the others don't. I've had people fly by me in the middle lane because I'm waiting for people to cross. It's and then in the evenings, it's even worse when you have, sundowning. You've got the sunset coming on, and it's impairing people's vision even more in that spot. With Wander right next door to us, who has a pathway going through their neighborhood. Our pathway, that's I believe city maintained, it goes through and then it just stops there. And then Wander has one right on the other side of the road where lots of kids ride their bikes through all this, and there's no easy way to cross. I struggle crossing it myself, and I'm a competent adult, I'd like to believe. So if I feel at risk crossing it, how can I safely send my kids across? Baseball practices are held there. I know lots of families send their kids over there unsupervised and at great risk. As I've said before, I really hope it doesn't take a serious injury or fatality before you guys will reevaluate this and move forward with this, because this is a serious problem. I know there's a stop sign down a little ways and there's another one up, on both ends, but that's not where kids are gonna go. That's not where I go, It's just too far out of the way. We need to create some sort of metered crosswalk there for everybody. I've signed the petition, and I know a lot of families as well that are on board with this. I know people in the Wander community that are on board with this, who have kids that cross that road regularly to play with their friends or go to the elementary school to have soccer practice. So whatever we can do to move forward with this and get this approved, it'd be greatly appreciated. I love everything you guys have done in our neighborhood. I love the parks. I love Patriot Park. The expansion and the library are gonna look great. But with that library, there's also gonna be a lot more foot traffic, and who's gonna walk down the corner when you can cut right through Patriot to get there? I mean, any one of us would do the same thing. None of us would go all the way down to the stoplight or the stop signs to make this cross. You might say you will, but it really needs to be reevaluated, especially with all the new expansions going on. So that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Baldery, 1407 Rocky Ridge Lane. I can't remember the neighborhood. Saratoga Hills neighborhood, I think, is where I live, up on the benches. I just wanted to take a minute and share some thoughts about one item you're going to discuss later, that public input around term limits for city public servants. And just wanted to share some thoughts. In my 20-plus years of living in this community, I have lots of good leaders have come and served and then moved on or retired for a season and let others serve. And I think that's been a real blessing for our community to have an opportunity for good people to serve for a season or two, but maybe not forever. In a community that's growing as fast as ours, sometimes it's good to have fresh ideas. In my labors in life, I've served in our little precinct for a season or two, and then I let somebody else do it. In my work environment, I change jobs about every 5 years, not because I'm bored, but because I think somebody else maybe could come in with a different set of eyes and provide a perspective and innovation that might be good for the companies that I've worked for, both nonprofit and for-profit. In my religious capacities, I've served in lots of leadership roles, but those are always with some sort of a shortened time limit. It's not like you serve forever. And quite frankly, there's lots of good people in our neighborhoods that serve in a variety of capacities. And so I would just lend my support to whatever discussion you guys have as a council, that we have tons of good leaders in this community. There's no need for somebody to serve for an exorbitant amount of time. Let somebody else come and serve after you've had your season or two of shaping the city and doing the things that you want to do. I'm also not in favor of making it so short that you can't have an impact. I think that's wrong, but there's a sweet spot somewhere in there for people to be able to serve and then walk away and let the person come in and carry the ball for a bit. Thanks.
Mayor, Council, Chris Porter, 677 North Appalachian Drive in Talus Ridge. I rise today to voice strong support for implementing term limits in our local government. This is not about politics, it's about principles, accountability, transparency, and the health of our democracy. Since the first time I ran for public office, I've been a vocal proponent of term limits at all levels of government, from municipal to federal. When I was elected as one of your colleagues, I brought with me a set of goals and specific achievements I wish to accomplish during my period of service. Once I had achieved most of those goals, I felt it was time for me to step aside and allow others an opportunity to serve. Term limits help prevent stagnation and encourage fresh ideas, new perspectives, and innovative approaches to the challenges our city faces. Local government is where decisions most directly affect our daily lives, our streets, our neighborhoods, our safety. We deserve leaders who are energetic, connected to the community, and willing to challenge the status quo. Term limits ensure a regular infusion of new leadership. Some say elections are the ultimate term limits, but we all know that the power of incumbency is real. It brings name recognition, access to fundraising, and influence that too often discourages healthy competition. Term limits level the playing field, giving more citizens the opportunity to serve. This isn't about punishing experience, it's about making space for new ideas, new goals, and the continuous improvement of our great city. Term limits honor public service by making it just that, service, not a career. They uphold government that is truly by the people and for the people. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Deb Sorensen, and my address is 213 West Ferruginous Way in Saratoga. So I am here to talk about the crosswalk. We do not live in Legacy Farms, but the park there, Patriot Park, affects everybody in Saratoga Springs because it is the main park for Saratoga. I know that I go there many times, and there's no place to park because there's some event of grandchildren or some kind of event. So I wind up parking on the streets in Legacy Farms neighborhood. Now, I'm an older woman, and I'm pretty wise, but when I try to cross that street on 400, I look both ways, and these cars are going very fast. And the problem with that road is that it's not a single lane. It gives the people that it could be a double lane. And so when somebody stops for you, the people behind them think that they can just pass. And that's the problem, and that's how kids get hit. Now, when I try to cross, I try to look, I try to be wise, I try to go as fast as my old body can, and I have been close to not being run over, but by people braking or colliding or just having the problem of trying to stop. Because if I don't try to cross, I will never be able to cross during that busy time. There's never a free time to do that, especially when it's busy. So my concern is for the children. If I'm older and I'm having trouble being able to cross or being afraid that somebody's going to collide and hit me, what about these little kids, these 8 or 9-year-old children that cross those streets to go play during the busy time? And that is the danger. I'm here not because I live in Legacy Farms. I'm here because I'm a part of Saratoga Springs. And I know that that park is a main hub for that. I ask you guys to think about, I'm here in Saratoga Springs because I love Saratoga. It's a beautiful place. The armed forces are beautiful. Everything here is wonderful. But I'm asking you guys to think, before you think of any other budgets, to think about the safety of these children that are crossing this street with these fast cars, with the ability that they can move around a car that is stopped. And it really will create a future catastrophe that we are trying to stop. So I ask you deeply to consider putting a crosswalk there on 400. Thank you.
We have 2 more minutes before we close public input.
Shelley Barch, 313 West Strawberry Place. I am grateful that you guys are considering this term limits ordinance tonight. I think it's an opportunity for us to share this opportunity we have to serve our fellow residents. I appreciated the time that I had on council, and I'm really appreciative working with each of you in various roles. I am grateful for this opportunity to look to some of our newer residents and give them that chance to give their input as well. And we have, when we were all first moving in here, our town was quite small, and it is no longer quite small. We have this wonderful, vibrant city, and we have wonderful people that have moved in and have would like to have the opportunity, I think, to share, and I think that we can give that. One thing I would make a comment on is I did notice that there wasn't an opportunity for people who have served before to come back in a couple of years. Things change, and sometimes after you've been off council and you've done the work that you've done, you can need to go, hey, something's changed and I need to come back. It might be 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, whatever, down the road. And I think that it's appropriate that people who have served and are willing to continue to serve have that opportunity back. So maybe that's something you consider, is putting a little gap in there so you no longer have that incumbent status, because there are a lot, especially as fast as our town is growing, there are a lot of people. I love it. It's kind of fun. I can go to the grocery store and not get stopped every 5 minutes. It's kind of a cool thing. But it is an opportunity also for those who have served and are willing to serve again to come back at a later time. So that might be a good option to, as you're discussing that, possibly look at adding something like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it is 6:18. We'll close public input. Mark, I know we had messages in regards to the crosswalk. Is he able?
Jeremy
Can you
is,
hear me?
he's online and Zoom.
Perfect.
Did you want me to just follow up on with what we're doing, or?
Yes, so that, because we did get the emails, and I know you've been looking at it on behalf of the council.
Yes. Yes, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, as we all know, crosswalks are something that cities have dealt with for a long, long time. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of data that shows simply painting a crosswalk on a busy road is actually increases danger. Unfortunately, kids, as we know, don't always pay attention, and sometimes they think that white paint's going to protect them. So there's a lot of adopted engineering standards that we follow, and those regulate not only when crosswalks should be installed, but when the warrants are met. When it's determined that the conditions meet the needs for a crosswalk, there's different types of crosswalks. So what may be appropriate for a local road, which would just be paint potentially on a low volume, slow road would be actually dangerous on a higher speed road. And that's why you've seen things like flashing beacons like we have on Saratoga Road, or even what they call a hawk, which is almost like a signal, the big overhead ones for where there's warranted. So as we discussed with the council previously, there are a very specific set of guidelines that we are required to follow that dictate when a crosswalk is warranted. The city recently acquired some new advanced technology to help us look at some of those things in the field condition, measure cars, measure pedestrian counts. That equipment is currently being deployed elsewhere in the city in response to a previous resident request. But we have it scheduled to study this area, I believe, about the first week of June, when the other study is complete. And we'll follow up with the results of that. Again, as we discussed, this is not something that is based on a feeling, or these are data driven things that are adopted by state regulation and industry standards that we are required to follow. So we will follow those processes, and then we can report back on what the data shows and whether it meets those requirements that are legally adopted as the governing standards for when and where crosswalks are installed.
Okay. Jeremy, we've got a couple questions from the council. Councilman McComber?
Yeah, just really quickly, I mean, the study the first week of June, the problem is school will be out. So you're going to miss the count of all of those kids crossing. And so if we could just maybe talk to the principal, find out how many kids live in Wander who cross to go over to the school there, and just maybe take that into consideration. I don't want it to look like, because it will be a lot less because school won't be in. And then obviously in the afternoons and evenings, people going to play at the park. And then my other comment is I would just direct staff, and actually, Annalisa, you're here, and I think we can make sure we include this with all major city events, that we get the Citizens Assisting Police or the police providing crosswalk services during Splash, especially with the fireworks and all that, and the Easter egg hunt. And even potentially, if it's a really big tournament and they're gonna exceed parking and they're gonna start parking and we see that they're parking into the neighbors, part of the permit, we can even look at some kind of additional fee if they're gonna have to use parking in the other neighborhoods as people are working their way in, even Inlet Park, right? I mean, lots of people will park there and come over across as well. So if we could just make sure that, at least for our events to start with, that we are on top of that. Because that is a huge amount. I see it. I live in the area. I live on the Wander side. But I do see the amount of traffic there. And then just so you know, like, there are a lot of things that they outlined to us that we're not bringing up here today about like not on an intersection, having a crosswalk mid-block is actually very dangerous, because the human brain, you don't think of crosswalks to be mid-block. You think of them at intersections, and so it can actually be quite dangerous. They've done a lot of studies. So if we were to put one mid-block, not on an intersection, there would have to be a lot of flashing lights and a lot of things that we would have to look into to make that safer. So just a lot of things that are being considered, and we have locations all over the city, requests coming in, as you heard, they're doing reports and for us. But I always appreciate it when citizens come in and bring things to our attention, because emails can get lost and misplaced, or people misspell my last name a lot, and I don't get the emails. And so I appreciate it when citizens take the time to come in, so thank you.
Okay, Councilman Carn?
Jeremy, how long will we be doing that study? And I agree that it's after school. I don't believe the safe walking route for the school is further east.
Can I offer clarification real quickly before you finish? We do have a school crosswalk that is on the road that goes directly to Saratoga, not Saratoga Shore, but
Springside, High Point.
Springside. It's further to the west.
Yeah.
And that is meeting the safe walking route for school kids going to and from school. And so that is there's a crossing guard there, and that's a controlled crosswalk. And that's the only reason that becomes safe and meeting the standards, is because it is a controlled crosswalk with a crossing guard. As was implied by Jeremy earlier, a crosswalk down closer to Patriot Park would not have that same feature. It would not be manned. And so, again, it might create conflicts, especially if the safe walking route is in the location it's at. And if kids get used to trying to cross at a different location, that would not be consistent with the crossing program we have with the school. We do work with them, and so that's something we could address next year, and we have already coordinated with them for next year's season. Sorry,
So,
Kristen.
yeah, so Jeremy, if you could, how long does that study take? Or how long will we be monitoring that intersection?
We would typically leave it up for a week or so. I'm not as familiar with the area as maybe some of you are. It's hard to predict whether there'll be more or less kids going to the park because school's out. But we can certainly follow up on Councilmember McComber's request that we talk to the principal and get some institutional knowledge from them.
And then my other question, it's not there yet, but there's a site between High Point and Schoolhouse where there's going to be there may be a church one day at Riverside Drive. I don't know if there's a potential crosswalk there, because you're going to have driveways coming in and out of that property too.
That would be the logical spot, Riverside, because it's such a.
Yeah, well, and frankly, and this isn't an agenda item, but Schoolhouse is problematic because of the park exit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of problems with that, with putting a crosswalk, so.
Which is why the safe walking route was located further from.
Right, further west, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Perfect. Jeremy, do you have anything else?
No, but happy to answer any other questions.
Perfect. Thank you. Typically, we don't respond to public input, but we appreciated the emails, and knew Jeremy had started working on it, so we wanted to have him be able to address where we were at with your concerns tonight. With that, we'll move on to reports. Anything from the council? Okay. Mark, administration?
At this time, we have no need for a closed session, Mayor and Council. We do have a really robust cemetery work session later this evening. You may notice some of the more scruffy members of our staff here. We're grateful to have them with us. Rick and his team are here, and we have our new cemetery sexton here who's going to be introduced. Rick, why don't you take a second, stand up and introduce your team real quick, and they'll be here exclusively for our conversation a little bit later.
I'm Rick. I'm the park superintendent. And Trevor here on the end, Trevor Sagan and Jacob Motter, both parks supervisors. And we just hired Colton Pert. He's the new cemetery sexton. And we're ecstatic that he's here. It's been a great process of getting him on board. Has 13 years experience. He's been working for Orem City, helping manage and in the operations with their cemetery. So he comes with a lot of institutional knowledge, and he's already been a great help with steering the ship. So we're thrilled and we're excited. So.
For you, he officially started yesterday. We made sure that he had a chance to read the policy document that we'll be talking about tonight and provide feedback. And then we met with him yesterday afternoon, grilled him like a cheese sandwich, and worked him over on some of the policy things that we're going to be talking about tonight. So we're super excited. Just really, he hit the ground and he's been running. And Rick and his team have done an amazing job getting us to this point, and I'm very excited for the conversations that we'll have later tonight talking about our new cemetery. And there's some rather interesting policy questions that we'll need to kind of get some direction on so that we can finish those up and have those ready to be adopted, hopefully at the next council meeting. So looking forward to that conversation. And Rick and team, thank you for being here tonight.
Councilman Wadman?
I was just going to say, it's kind of ironic that you hire the cemetery guy the week before Memorial Day. Just saying, but.
At least he doesn't have to worry about anybody being there right now. He gets this memorial off.
Also, I'm wondering, like, if you started working when he was 14, because you don't look like you're old enough to be already working 13 years. I'm like, oh, well, he started when he was a teenager. It's fine. No, we're excited to have you. Thank you.
Orem's child labor laws are different.
Yeah. Do we follow those? I don't know.
Too bad HR isn't here, Councilman.
So, and to this discussion, while former Councilman Porter's here, this is a project, Chris, if you could please stand up. He started with Camp Williams, I can't remember how many years ago. Fourscore.
I think 10, almost 12 years, 10, almost 12 years.
Anyways, this is something that's been a long time in the coming, so this discussion tonight will be great. But we were able to secure land from Camp Williams as a buffer to protect our neighbor, but also give amenity to the city. And he started laying the groundwork with ACUB, and then staff has done an amazing job to take it from ground that was given by the federal government to what it is today, which is a long ways. Hats off to you guys. Hats off to everybody who's put their work into that tonight. So we will get to that a little bit later this evening. We have a MAG project presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we have a presentation on the status of our latest MAG TAG project. So the TAG stands for Technical Assistance to Governments Program. That comes from MAG. We got some funding We had applied with a regional growth project that was similar to Eagle Mountain's project, so it turned into what is now known as the West County, Utah County Interagency Growth Plan, shortened to WESCO Plan. And we have Kevin Croshaw here on behalf of the project. He's one of the project managers for Avenue Consultant for MAG. So Kevin?
Uh-oh. Well, hopefully I'm quick then. Well, I'm excited to be here, Mayor Council. Thanks for having us here. Really, my goal today is to really kind of update you on the process of where we're at and kind of give you a taste of what we're doing as part of this analysis, with the end goal of preparing for a future meeting where we will invite the elected officials, the council members, whether it's an assignment or it's a hopefully everyone can come to a meeting where we can kind of all get together as cities in the West County area for some good discussion. Let's see which button. There we go. All right, so we'll go over the project purpose, goals, and objectives, and then again talk about some of the initial analysis that we've done. Kind of an example to kind of get the juices flowing of what we're looking for, or looking to do, and then look at our next steps. So again, as Tippy mentioned, this is funded through MAG, and this brings together the West County areas, Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain, Fairfield, and Cedar Fort, as well as bringing UTA and UDOT to work together on this. So kind of the schedule of what we're doing here is, first what we've done is we've looked at and reviewed a lot of plans from all the cities. Our staff has done a great job reviewing those, looking at the goals for different areas within the city, looking at transportation and land use and those. And then we're looking at analyzing these development trends and looking for, we use the word misalignment. I don't want to say it's misalignment, really seems negative, but it's looking for areas where maybe things aren't quite aligned, and what tweaks can we make to continue growing and continue moving in the same direction as we continue to grow as the West County area. Once we've identified those and we've looked at kind of the regional alignment of goals, then we will, the final deliverable will be an action plan that, the cities can use to really move things forward in the same direction based on your goals and things that you're looking to accomplish as a city. So here's a quick overview of the schedule. We're looking to have a meeting in August, and then we'll wrap up the plan in August for where you guys can review that action plan. So as we started into our analysis, we've identified three, I guess, trying to separate these misalignments, I guess, into three different topics. One would be kind of those internal misalignments where, we look internal to Saratoga Springs. And then the second would be external misalignments where we're looking at Saratoga Springs versus looking at the other cities around the West Utah County area. And then lastly, looking at process where how do we get things done, and are there things that are maybe causing things to not get quite developed or done the way we want them to. And so we're going to go forward with an example. And one thing as we've been looking for initial example, we're going to look at active transportation. That's just one of the first things that we're going to look at, just to give you an idea of some of the analysis and some of the things that we're looking at as we're moving forward. So when it comes to active transportation, we've got the 2020 Parks and Trails Open Space Plan and the 2016 Bike and Ped Plan. And I guess you can see those are, written down up here are the goals of those plans. I know these have come before you as a council and approved and adopted, so we don't need to review those specifically. But these are kind of the goals of the plans. And as we dove into it, we looked at the costs associated with the projects proposed in the plans, and also looked at some of the impact fee revenues, and just noticed there might be a little bit of a gap. Now, at this point, we want to continue to coordinate with city staff on maybe how these different projects are funded. But maybe one, when we talk about maybe misalignment, is looking at, the recommendation of let's review, if the goal is to, implement these plans, let's look at the funding resources and just make sure that we are, able to. And again, this is very high level initial analysis. So again, this is where we would coordinate with the staff to make sure that we're, providing a recommendation that's implementable for the city.
We have a question from Councilman McComber.
I just think a key point, because we do have a lot of residents here, and they can get a little confused because they don't do this on a day-to-day basis, but this doesn't take into account when a developer is putting in the trail,
Yes.
and that is going to fund that, and then it's turned over to the city. So that gap is just if the city was to pay for everything and to go in and break down barriers of development and make it cheaper for developers and we put all the trails in, which we don't do, they're required to do that. And so I would say that 80%, if not 90+% of that gap is probably with the developers when they come in to do their neighborhoods. We do have some gaps along Redwood from historical, like annexations and things where we've been filling them in over the years, and it's been a process, and that is where the city is responsible. So I just wanted to make sure that people didn't think that all of a sudden we're going to be raising taxes or fees to build some trails. So.
No, thank you.
Kevin, I also wanted to point out on that same note is we also don't want to put it in a funded year of our impact fee studies, because then we'd be required to go out and build them in the years that they're funded. Rather, we add them to the projects as they are being developed, and then the developers are able to get open space impact fee credits for the construction of those trails. So we understand there's a gap, and we do have a strategy, and so it may look like a misalignment. It's actually part of how we anticipate.
Strategy.
Yeah.
Okay, no, and that's good feedback, Mark. And I just want to say it's very high level. And again, as we move forward, we're going to work with the staff, and Mark, thank you for your input, to make sure as we look at recommendations and things that we're talking with your staff and making sure everything is up right. But just taking a quick high level look based on those studies, right, is, and again, this is an example of, what does it look like? What does a recommendation look like? And it would be, hey, let's take a look at, some of these, and just make sure we're on the same page with moving forward and getting these funded, right? Because we all want these trails and things to go in, right? So an example of an external alignment or misalignment would be, again, looking at your trails and your master plans, is just looking at the connections between the cities. And I know as part of this project, we've and me working with Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain in the past, know that both these cities, as well as the other cities included in the study, do coordinate a lot. So I don't want you to think that there's not any coordination going on, right? But looking at those plans, looking at, potential small tweaks to where those trails and things connect between Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs, right? There's also some on some of the long-range planning for Cedar Fort and Fairfield, where Eagle Mountain has trails planned, but those cities don't have plans. And so just really, the recommendation would be, taking a high-level look, working together, and utilizing the Utah Trail Network, and looking at, a regional backbone for trails, right? And so that's just an example of a small thing that, as we work together as the West Utah County area, one thing we can do to continue moving that forward. And then lastly, would be looking at a process, kind of the process side of things. Again, looking at all the cities do have a component of active transportation, whether it's in their general plan or specific plans like here in Saratoga Springs. And then really looking at, this is a quick table that shows, the different agencies and cities and what they have incorporated as.
Got another question from Councilman Carn.
When we look at
What?
West Utah County, why is Lehigh not in that conversation?
West Lehigh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question. I guess I wasn't a part of negotiating and figuring out exactly who was included in the study.
Okay.
But I do know there was a line drawn. I don't know, Tippy, if you have.
I can actually address that. When they were looking at this, we both had, Eagle Mountain and Saratoga both had funding requests in. that were comparable, and so it made sense to partner us together. Lehigh was kind of doing their own thing, and frankly, adding Lehigh would have compounded the complexity of this quite a bit. So we're not saying that we won't partner with them. In fact, our teams are setting up meetings to meet with Lehigh, to work on the trail connections, to work on some of these coordinating things. However, there wasn't the dollars necessarily to add them to the two projects that were being requested at the time.
As long as we're staying on top of it, I mean, Aspen Hills Boulevard is a perfect example. It comes in and builds a road that doesn't align, and then it costs a lot of money. So, I mean, I think it's to UDOT's best interest to make sure that West Lehigh at least is informed of this, maybe presented, maybe there's a nice presentation, maybe we invite them to the multi-city event, because, I mean, Lehigh borders
They need to be involved in this.
40% of our cities.
Yeah.
And, were you gonna say something, Mark? Sorry, I don't wanna. As part of this so far, and we did attend the Tri-City Planner Breakfast with Tippy and Lehigh. You know, they sent their planners there. It was a great meeting, and they provided some input, just some initial input as well. And so, anyways, I think Mark.
Maybe not officially, just informally to keep them involved.
Yeah, and we have started.
Okay.
And as they mentioned, we had a multi-city meeting with planners and included them, and they gave the presentation.
Yeah. Yeah, so, kind of, and the other thing we looked at too is some of the timing of these plans, and we understand that as we do these plans, sometimes it's tough to try and align with everyone else to try and get plans done at the same time. But when you see, you know, one plan's done in 2015 and one plan's done in 2025, it always makes it hard to stay completely aligned, because as you guys know, things change almost daily. Right, and so one of the recommendations, a very high-level recommendation as part of the study would be, you know, what is a way where we can try and get those planning efforts a little more aligned to be done around the same time, right? Is there a regional plan that we can do, you know, maybe as part of the West Utah County area, or what are some things that we can do to try and align when we do those plans? And that would be maybe a recommendation as part of the plan, right? And so that's an example, right? And so that's kind of an initial, you know, first very high-level example of what we're looking to do based on all of your studies and things like that. As we've talked about, you know, we talked about active transportation today. You know, there's a lot of other topics. As we meet in August, we'd love to get your input and see maybe what are your top priorities. And so if you want to take a minute and just think about, we have a list of some of the other topics that we're going to be looking at as part of this study, you know, and you know, what are some of those topics that are the highest priority to you? And then in August, we want to meet all together with, you know, as many city council members as we can from all 4 cities, and really look at those priorities and really tailor this action plan to what's most important to you.
One meeting with all of us?
That is the goal.
And I wouldn't do all these topics, it's too many.
That's why we want some input.
I would actually take water off, because that's very city-specific, and we don't mix our water systems. There's really no benefit to saying, where are you putting your tank? Because we're never going to share a tank, and I mean,
I agree.
I mean, just to help you, utility plans, same thing. I mean, sewer coming through the city, we've got a lot of that already done. Population growth, I think that's one. Annexation plans. I think that Eagle Mountain and I, with city staff, have already communicated a lot there. I think roads, transit, zoning, commercial, residential zoning, I think that's helpful. I mean, we planted a new high school right off Mountain View Corridor Freeway, and to get the school district, maybe the new school district involved, because there's some people who don't want it going through a neighborhood, but we really want to send all those kids on a 50-mile-an-hour roads when they're brand new drivers. When I was a parent, I'd be like, you have to go through the neighborhood until you've driven for at least 9 more months before I want you going up onto a freeway. So these are the kinds of things that I think would be good communication between the 2 cities.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's some, you asked for some.
Thank you.
But to be fair, things like annexation boundaries is probably not appropriate for
We do that already,
a
though.
group conversation, since we're already working with neighboring cities.
I think transit's probably the most.
I think transit's the biggest one, yeah.
No,
And the growth.
And we've been meeting quarterly with all of our neighboring cities for a while around transportation, and it'd probably be good for us all to give our opinions to you, and, because I think they're all a little different.
And I actually like the commercial and residential zoning because I would like to know where Eagle Mountain sees their big commercial zones and residential zones because that could affect us.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That I think
The
is.
connection between
really
Eagle
never-
Mountain and Wildflower, we've got to have that discussion.
Yeah, we've never really had those types of That I think is a good audience for that. So I would say transit and then the zoning, personally.
Okay. No, thank you for that. That's good. And so in the meantime, right, what we'll do is we'll continue working with your staff, and any input you have as you think of it, pass it down. And what we want to do is really have, and we just want to be a conduit to have a really good discussion between, because it's not only just the other cities, you know, we also have UTA and UDOT, and we want to be able to have very positive conversations, talking about your priorities and what can we do to be aligned as we move forward, right? Especially in this area that's growing so fast. And so, I just told you almost everything, but one of the last things I do want to say is, you know, when, you know, with an action plan like this, where you've got, you know, good regional priorities that are shared, you know, those are definitely opportunities for, you know, funding of projects and things with MAG. And so to really help begin to push, you know, some of those priorities forward. So that's all I have, and thanks for your input. And
Councilman Carn, then Councilman
Yeah, so
Wadman.
this came up at a recent UDOT meeting with a resident, and I don't disagree with him. We hear a lot of plans from UDOT that get implemented often by MAG or by UDOT directly, and then we hear completely separate stories from UTA. Who sits above UDOT and UTA to make sure we've got a cohesive plan between public transit and roads?
The governor.
UTA sits under UDOT now.
So is that not something you can answer for me?
I don't think there is a department.
So they merged them a few years ago during the legislative session.
Yeah.
They
So
wrote
who's over who?
UTA under UTA under
UDOT's
UTA.
over UTA.
So
UDOT's under
who's
UTA?
over
No,
them?
UTA's under
So
UDOT.
Carlos is over the whole thing?
Yes.
Yes.
so again, that's where we want to be a conduit for you, right? We want to have positive conversations about.
I don't
can
feel
we
like
do-
that's a cohesive conversation, and maybe it's my miss, but
Okay.
we hear UTA plans and UDOT plans, and never do we hear the cohesive, this is how these plans work together.
You know, it's funny that you bring that up. We will be bringing you a transit study, fresh look conversation probably in a couple of meetings, probably the 1st of July, where we will be able to have some more of those conversations and push that back up to those folks. I know we meet with them frequently, and staff is frequently sharing our transit woes and our desire for this. We do have some transit projects coming from UTA. We do have some bus route alignments coming. It's not soon enough, and it's not enough to satisfy the needs of our community, but we'll continue to push on that. And I think if you can save your comments to July 2nd,
Okay.
you can certainly share your comments with probably the more appropriate group.
We know he'll never save his comment.
No, I'm gonna say them right now. We are woefully underserved by UTA.
Yep. Councilman Wadman.
Enough for 70,000 people.
No, not 70, 150.
So this meeting in August, what does that meeting look like?
July.
Is it?
Oh,
Well,
sorry.
I'm talking about the joint council or whatever this is going to be called, right?
Yep,
What is that an information meeting? Is it what does that meeting look like?
So really what it'll be is we'll provide you our analysis.
Okay.
But also discussion with you about what your priorities are, right? Because we don't want to just make you an action plan that doesn't serve your priorities.
So do you need us to come to that meeting prepared with opinions and stuff like
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yes, and what we'll do is we'll work with your staff.
Okay.
Make sure you have the information you
Okay.
need before the meeting. And that's what we're going to do in the meantime, right? Between now and that meeting is work through the analysis and then provide you the information you need as you come. And so we'll send that invite out as soon as we can. We'll coordinate with your staff to make sure you have the invite. And whether it's by assignment or everyone that can come is much appreciated. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And look forward to that meeting. Thank you.
Lance, I'm not sure that our council's ever held back on sharing their opinions on anything.
I saw the look Mark you gave us.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. Okay, I will entertain a motion on the consent item.
So made.
I have a first from Councilwoman McComber, second from Councilwoman Barton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have business item 1, the rezone and development agreement for Skyline Properties.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is a change of zone request in the north part of town. So this is right on the northern border of the town on Redwood Road, 2472 North Redwood Road, to be precise.
Where every ounce of
Yeah.
Marcy is.
So you can see here on the zoning map on the right, there's an area in green, that's agricultural zone. The applicant is proposing to change that to regional commercial. This matches up with our land use map in the general plan, and so it's consistent with that. They've provided a concept plan of what they kind of want to do with that. So it's 2 parcels of land. They would propose to potentially do 6 lots on that. These would be commercial lots in the RC zone. And so, yeah, the applicant is here tonight. If you have any questions for them.
Would you like to come up and say anything?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
You can sit
Just
here.
if you had anything you wanted to add to your request before the council discusses.
No, the plan you see up there now is probably one of our first concepts, and we're probably not going to do a cul-de-sac like.
Okay, good, because that was going to be my first question.
just saying that. We're like, what is that?
That was going to be my first question. Yeah.
No, we discovered we can just divide it into 4 lots on that side, and we have plenty of frontage and area to do that, so.
Perfect. It's much better.
Councilman Wilden, you had a comment?
Just, and I don't know if you can answer this, just if you have any comment on what type of businesses you're trying to attract there. I don't have any problem with the
Just
concept.
curious.
It's just more of a curiosity.
Being in this zone and with the gateway overlay, we're restricted somewhat in what can go in there, so we're just trying to look and market it with that in mind.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve business item 1 as stated on the agenda, including all staff finding conditions.
Okay, I have a first from Councilman Wilden,
Second.
second from Councilman Wadman. Any further discussion? Barton?
Hi.
Comber?
Aye.
Wadman?
Aye.
Carn?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have business item 2, the Mountain View Corridor Widening CMT Contract Change Order.
Since Jeremy's not here, I will take it. CMT is doing our construction management for the Mountain project. This is just an amendment to the contract to make sure that we have enough scope to cover the construction cycle. And yes, we are intending on having the project finished by August. So that's the goal.
Big conversation going on out there, of course, right?
You know,
Yeah. Which is good.
If we could, I mean, when we're communicating, like when people are saying, well, why are we not waiting for school to get out? Because you're not ripping up the road the first
Yeah, a
month
lot of
of the
communication
project.
and clarifying that because there's
So-
other things to do before you rip out the road.
Yeah, and so that just was frustrating me, and I just like how it's bite my tongue, and because I don't want to create a conversation. I think that's what these meetings are for.
Like steps of a project like that, right?
Yeah.
And
I believe we've had the pre-construction meeting with the contractor. They're mobilizing, they're getting everything done. The first portion of the project will actually be working on the UDOT property, and they will be doing some things that will be on the
Not be
shoulder.
impacting.
This is what the communication for our residents needs to be, right? Like
Right.
for us, it's fine, we understand that, but our residents are asking, why are they starting now?
When school's not out.
Yeah, there should be like even an easy timeline out there. This is what we do first in a project like this. UDOT's going to be doing their quarter, right? And so,
If we put a timeline, it's got to be loose.
no, yeah, a loose timeline, but hey, this is why we're starting before school gets out because this is what we do at the beginning of a project.
Well, but to be fair, we actually installed the extra culvert for the canal.
Right.
Actually months ago, to try and make sure that we could hit the goals of finishing this project over the summer. So we'll work with Ann on getting some communication put out there. But again, fundamentally, we're moving the project along as fast as we can.
Which is great.
and not impacting current traffic. We believe most of the work will be taking place off of the roadway. So with the exception of when we have to do seals and overlays and other things that impacts the whole roadway, restriping, we're trying to keep out of the way of the public for the bulk of the summer, and then even during school. But there's a lot of hyperbole about how much this is going to impact school the last week and stuff. And again, virtually everything that we're doing is on the shoulders.
There's a lot of hyperbole because there's not a lot of information out there.
Right. And
So
we'll work on-
over-communicate, right? That's how I view something like this when it's impacting that area this much.
Okay. There's no other further discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move,
sorry.
go ahead, go for it.
I move that we approve business item, excuse me, number 2 as stated on the agenda with all the staff, including all the staff findings and conditions.
Okay, I have a first from Councilwoman Barton, a second from Councilman Carn. Any further discussion? Wadman?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Barton?
Aye.
Carn?
Aye.
Comber? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We have the Saratoga 262 offsite reimbursement agreement amendment.
I'll jump on that for Jeremy again. So he's going to owe me big time when he gets back in town. We have, this is for improvements that were made as part of the Brixton Park subdivision. These are reimbursement expenses that are reimbursable under our development agreement. And so this amendment is adding additional costs that are appropriate for that reimbursement agreement.
Okay, if there's no discussion, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve business item 3 as stated on the today's agenda.
I have a first from Councilman McComber,
Second?
second from Councilman Carn. Any further discussion? McComber?
Aye.
Carn?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Wadman?
Aye.
Barton?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have business item 4, the reimbursement agreement for Fox Hollow N5.
Yes, and this is a similar thing dealing with some additional open space reimbursement for Fox Hollow. And so again, we recommend that you approve this per the development agreement.
This item, we've been asked to table this item as Lennar has not wanted to sign yet.
Okay, then we move that you table this.
Then I
Recommend that you
entertain a
table.
motion to table this.
Move that we table item 4 as listed on the agenda per the applicant's request.
Second?
I have a first from Councilman McComber, second from Councilman Carn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, Transportation Master Plan Update.
I'm still here, by the way.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I just, you know,
I thought you bailed off of the call, Jeremy. You got lucky.
no, I'm just cooling off. It is insanely hot here.
Oh, is he, is he on
Yeah.
vacation? Because quit complaining.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, this excited to bring you an update. There's no drastic changes. A lot of massaging. We worked very closely with the church, as of course they have a lot of acreage, and a lot of the decisions we make, they're going to be the developer or holding the contract with the developer. So there's a few tweaks to the downtown area that fit the current version of the downtown plan, but of course if that changes, we'll have to bring you an update there. We did reduce some of the crossings of Tickville Wash, carefully making sure that we had enough connectivity, but maybe making a little more of an efficient system. And the church still has this vision of making Tickville a green corridor. So we work closely with them to reduce maybe impacts to that vision while still maintaining connectivity. And then we made some tweaks up there by the new high school, by the Hidden Valley connector to align with that road study that Eagle Mountain's doing to get that road sometime in the future over the thing. So nothing drastic, some changes. I would expect that we're probably going to be back here in a year. This is going to be a document that we're going to have to update fairly frequently just because everything's in a state of flux, but this kind of gets us at least caught up to today's knowledge with different applications and things. So.
Okay, Councilman McComber.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I was just going to say, I mean, there's not a major changes here, but this is something that we do on a regular basis, updating our transportation map. The Westco Interagency Growth Plan? He was referring to our plan when we approved it originally, and we've made updates. I just would really hope that they have the most current version. And in fact, let's just send them this one that we're going to potentially be approving today.
Same company, actually. So Avenue it's the same company that is doing this one.
So they'll have this then right away. Okay.
Yeah, correct, exactly. And it's the same company that's doing. They also got the contract for that Hidden Valley road into Eagle Mountain. So
Finally.
they weren't given it. They competitively bid after it, but just so happened that they are one of the industry leaders in transportation, and they,
They've been winning the
are
bids.
running all of those right now. So.
Actually, there's some consistency there that's effective by having that historical knowledge. Thanks.
Okay. There's no other discussion.
I got one.
Okay, Councilman Carn.
Jeremy, my only question here is in reference to the Hidden Valley Freeway, on our map, it shows it as Halverson Parkway as a minor arterial. That will need to be adjusted at some point.
It will stay. There will be some variations. So the cross section that gets approved won't match any of our actual cross sections because you probably won't have sidewalks and things like that. But as far as the road that's going over, it'll be very similar to the lane configuration of our minor arterial, which is a 5-lane road. So the changes that you'll see maybe between the adopted cross section of that road will be more in the shoulders, the park strips. The lane configuration probably will be very similar to our minor arterial and our major arterial have a very similar configuration. Really, the differences are in what happens, beyond the backup curb.
Yeah.
We
So
put
I guess
big
that
30-foot landscaping buffers on redwood and stuff. So
that'll come back to the conversations between the two cities. I know that in my conversations with them, their vision for that road is a road that isn't interrupted with intersections and lights, and is a full motion road until you hit Mountain View Corridor. That's what they would like to see in Eagle Mountain. So I want to make sure that we're in good coordination with them on what is important to us.
yeah, I mean, we'll work with you, I guess. When they have that study finalized, it likely will require us to adopt a new cross section, and then we'll have to have a discussion about where does it go from one of our minor arterials that has access strategically to this new cross section that's going to have no access. That'll be a policy decision that we'll work with you based on the information of that study, and we'll have to adopt. We will amend the TMP at that time when we have that information based on that information. So I think at this point we just don't have enough information to implement that.
I know Avenue Consultants has proposed 4 different routes for that road that are all, they're slightly different when they hit our border. And so I just want to make sure we're, communicating with them what is important to us on this side of the hill, where we want that road to enter our city.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't think the church has fully.
They're not even
had
in
a
the
chance to-
conversation. They're planning in the
right.
bubble out there a little bit. So
There's a lot.
we need to get
there's a lot
everybody
of
at the
moving
table.
parts, like you said, and like I said, this TMP will have to be amended probably once those
Okay.
things have kind of figured
Okay,
out.
that's good. I'm good.
Councilman Wadman.
Jeremy, I'm just looking at what is this called? The level of service where it shows where the stress is, where the major roads are orange and red. Do we do any forecasting, like in forecasting on the build out, the projected build out, and the forecasting on our projected growth? Do we do anything for that data?
That's all. Yeah, that data is all
Is it all
incorporated
in?
into our TMP, and it's also touched on when MAGLU and they do their regional transportation planning. But we try to use that information to determine what projects we will prioritize with our local
And the
funding.
timing,
Right. So
okay.
when we look at our project lists and our impact fee project lists, we use some of that data to determine where are there stress points that are unlikely to be resolved by development, developers funding and things like that. And those are the ones that we tend to try to prioritize with our funding mechanisms. And also long term, that's how we determine, what size. So these road cross sections are very much, again, data driven decisions based on build out loading on the approved zoning and approved entitlements. We want to make sure that, even though you may build a road in phases, we want to make sure long term we are, setting aside enough right of way to build the roads that will meet the needs of our city to build that.
Yeah, I just heard from a few citizens that they're concerned that we're building to match current population and not projected, but we're not, so thanks.
I had one more question, Jeremy, sorry. On that same map that shows the stress points, the orange and the yellows, does that at all take into account future commercial development, which would pull traffic out of some of those areas?
Yeah, generally, just not to get into the weeds too much, but they create little polygons, right? So they take our entire zoning, whether it's commercial, high density, residential, whatever, and they load up demand based on tables, right? They say, okay, this generates this many trips, whatever, based on industry, decades of industry experience. And then they start loading those densities from those little polygons onto adjacent roads, intersections, whatever, and then they run the model. So yeah, so our general plan and our zoning and our entitlements dictate the trips from those tables, and then the model loads those trips into the roads, and then it finds out, then it kind of runs it and says, okay, what happens? Where do we have failures? Where do we have intersections? And then we can change road capacities, we can change intersections and rerun it until we get a model that, so it kind of is that iterative process until we get to something that, in theory works. Now this is all, with a somewhat grain of salt, because as we've discussed before, traffic is one of the most challenging things to model because it's not simply physics, it's human behavior, which, is more challenging. So, but this is the best technology we have. And I think 99% of the time it's fairly good at telling us what to do.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve business item 5 as stated on the agenda.
I'll second.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden, second from Councilman McComber. Any further comments? Wadman?
Aye.
Karn?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Barton?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have the Saratoga Springs City Cemetery Site Plan and Preliminary Plat.
Sarah, can you pull up that presentation? All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is for the preliminary plat and associated site plan for Phase 1 of the Saratoga Springs Cemetery. This is located in Village Plan 9 of the Wildflower Plant Community, just north of Wild Blossom Drive at the northwest corner of the city. Oh, if you'll click on it. No worries. All right, so this is to give you a good idea of where this is located, Phase 1. Here's a conceptual master plan for the cemetery, hatched on there and outlined in the dotted hatched line is this first phase of the cemetery that will be connecting to Prairie Blue Drive. Here's the associated preliminary plat. It is for the entirety of the 20 acres of the site. Whereas the site plan itself, like I said, is Phase 1 and comprises approximately 2.5 acres of that overall 20-acre space. As part of this, it does contain 1,371 grave sites, as well as 265 cremation niches located within a cremation garden, shown on the site plan there. This also includes a temporary office trailer. I have the elevations for which that will be shown on site. As noted in the staff report, a code amendment will be needed before we can locate that temporary office trailer onto the cemetery property. That is in works and will be brought forward to the council for your approval. And then the other...
Just a key point, that 1371 grave sites, that's an actual site because we are potentially allowing double stacked, correct?
Correct.
So that would be a lot more opportunities.
And again, this is just the first phase. We have the rest of the 20 acres to build out.
I was
So-
going to ask, how many phases are we anticipating?
I don't know, how much do you want to fund up front? I think it's very prudent that we're starting off with this size.
Plenty.
We will know probably by, within the first year how fast
far we
these
need
are
to go,
moving. We can certainly add more. Again, the bulk of this project was really to get the infrastructure up there so that we could go. And strategically speaking, we now can grow the cemetery as there's demand for it. There's no sense in putting in 20 acres of grass
But the trees would be nice.
The trees would be nice, and there will be some things, in fact, in phase one, there are many trees that will be planted.
Phasing even certain trees so that it doesn't like, oh, you're in phase one trees, they're nice and big, and then the little trees are like.
Certainly. So, but again, it's a 20-acre parcel, so we've got probably another, I'd say, close to 15 acres, if I
Michael,
remember
the plan
correctly.
shows you 30-year trees.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
That was a dig at Chriselle. She's smiling back there.
All friendly.
The other item that was noted as a shall comply on the staff report related to the site is the parking. There are currently 4 parking spots shown in front of the temporary office trailer there. That is consistent with what we found at other cemetery sites in adjacent cities. So just wanted to make note of that as well. Here are those elevations. Like I said, this will require a code amendment that staff is working on and will bring forward.
The famous trailer is getting used again.
Is this the wreck trailer?
Kind of ironic.
This is Heston's trailer?
We moved it.
We're gonna die in it.
The mayor lived in that. when he-
It's a mausoleum.
Wasn't this the original city hall?
No.
No, that wasn't. We don't have that one.
This was down at Ring Road.
It was at Ring
15
Road
years
for-
ago when I got here.
It's been around
I
for a
will say
while.
this, one of the things is when we get done using this trailer, probably after we move into the new city hall, it will get a facelift, it will get a rehab, a refresh paint, clean it, it needs new tile and carpet and all that. So we'll rehab it. Obviously, that will be after the code amendment, and then we'll be able to utilize that on that site for quite some time. And it will serve as office space for the park staff that will be working up there, as well as future sales and management and other things. So
Can we get a plaque on it that says Mayor's Double Wide?
that's actually, yeah, we'll do that happily. So.
You know, I mean, I wouldn't, I mean, they were joking about it, but when we're doing this renovation, I mean, this is where people are going to be going. They're going to be talking to the sexton and everything, even having some pictures. This trailer's been used in the city for a long time. Let's talk about the history. Let's be proud of our history that we went from this type of thing where we had offices to what we're building now, to where we're in now and to what we're building.
Was this PD at Ring Road?
It was PD originally.
Fire station.
Fire and
Fire
police.
department lived out of it for a time.
It was where the firemen used to live before we built housing,
was an
then it was
apartment.
Public Works.
Yeah.
Really?
So even just some
Now
of that
it's rec
history,
tree
let's
cars.
capture that, because I think sometimes we get
Fun
growing so
timeline
fast,
would be
we
really
lose
fun.
some of our history.
We are wisely spending our money.
Yeah, we're conservative.
Let's
We
just-
reuse things.
We're gonna
It's not in bad
squeeze
shape.
every bit of
I
life out
invited
of
to
this.
come and so we joke.
Yeah.
It's actually in good shape. We've replaced the carpet. We've re-roofed it. It's in decent shape. It's not in bad shape at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but let's just honor it. I mean, let's be like, this is something that we don't just build a huge, more cemetery facility right off the bat and take up a whole bunch of tax dollars. We use what we have and we grow into things.
Jacob, you're smiling. Is there something hidden in this trailer? Skeletons in the closet?
He's used it before, I think.
Mayor, I think you're right. There's some little things going on
There's a
over there.
skeleton in that closet somewhere.
In the walls, they've got hidden things. They probably. Thank you.
No problem. With that, any questions you guys have?
No.
Okay, if there's not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve item 6, the Saratoga Springs City Cemetery Site Plan and Preliminary Plat, as stated on today's agenda, with any staff findings and conditions.
I have a first from Councilman McComber.
Karn did it. What? Karn did it.
Second?
Karn got second.
His voice cracked.
Yeah. Because his voice cracked like he was 14.
Just as old as the trailer. Councilwoman Barton.
Aye.
McComber.
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
Karn.
Aye.
Wadman.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have a motion that passes. We have the change orders for Evan Grader Cemetery Project for additional landscape. Anybody on this one?
Jeremy? Oh, so now he does. This is the Evans Grader Cemetery Project landscape items?
Oh, the change order?
Yes.
Yeah, the biggest cost here was the pump. It turns out that although we have adequate pressures for a house in the zone 4, the amount of landscaping we're going to need to build out, it was just too risky to try to run it without a pump. So that was not included in the original bid. That's the biggest change. And then there was also some additional expenses for getting electricity up there. because of the pump is a three-phase pump. Now we need to get three-phase power up there. So it was just, we were definitely trying to get this project out, and we didn't have a choice but to do it before we got information on the Rocky Mountain Power requirements or the pump. So, and there's a handful of other little things, but that's the main cost.
Councilman McComber?
Just a question, when developers come in and they oversize and they put things in, they come to the city and demand a reimbursement agreement. We're pulling this power in, and obviously Wildflower is going to come and they're going to be able to take advantage of this. Are we going to be charging them any kind of reimbursement agreement because we're bringing this power up there and we're going to save them a lot of cost, developer cost,
I don't believe that they're going to need three-phase power.
with all of their development up there?
Yeah, I'm not aware of what their power demands are, but we can certainly look towards that and see if it is, there's some.
Just that they're going to be taking advantage of the infrastructure that we're putting. Again, I have a very strong opinion about not breaking down barriers of development, like having taxpayers allow for more development. They need to pay for their impact.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve business item 7 as stated on the agenda with staff findings and conditions.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden.
Second.
Second from Councilman Wadman. Any further discussion? Barton?
Aye.
Wadman?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Comber?
Aye.
Carn?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I'm being told that item 8 has asked to be moved to the end.
Yes,
Because they're running late.
they are running
Here.
late.
So we'll move 8 to our last item this evening. Business item 9, amendments to Title 19 Land Development Code.
Tippy, do we know who's running this one?
The landscape and fencing?
Yes. Sorry, Sarah, you were hiding behind the monitor there.
Okay. This isn't super complicated. We've just had some differences in building code versus Title 19, and we wanted to clear those up, make retaining walls more safe, and then make sure we are regulating that at both levels. And that's it. So I'm here for questions.
Any questions from staff? Or from staff? No, council? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll do this one. I move to approve business item 9, amendments to Title 19 Land Development Code, Springs, Chapter 19.06, landscape and fencing for retaining walls, city-initiated, citywide, ordinance 25-37, with any staff findings and conditions.
I have a first from Councilman Carn,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Barton. Any further discussion? McComber?
Aye.
Carn?
Aye.
Wadman?
Aye.
Barton?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have item 10, the Wildflower Village Plan 5 and Community Plan Amendment Number 4.
All right, good evening again. This is Wildflower's Community Plan 4th Major Amendment and Village Plan 5. So this is the one we had our work session on April 22nd, not too long ago. Just as a refresher, a community plan amendment includes updates to the grading criteria. So this creates a new grading criteria within the Wildflower Community Plan. Their grading was approved before we had our hillside ordinance standards in place. And so they've added this grading criteria for only Village 5 and 6, the commercial area shown on the map on the bottom left. And this matches our hillside ordinance. So our hillside ordinance allows up to 25 feet of cut and fill, and it matches that standard. It also requests to allow steep slopes within building lots. Our hillside ordinance doesn't allow that in residential lots, but since it's commercial, they're making that request. I've also added an update. This is a red line in the document in the packet that updates the max building footprint. So this is a building footprint, not total building area, to 170,000 square feet. It was previously 230,000 square feet. And if everything we discussed in the work session is in this plan, they shouldn't need a bigger footprint than 70,000 square feet. This also amends the village phasing to align with the relocation of the drainage channel. And I've also added a request, this is on behalf of Village Plan 9, since they're updating the phasing plan as well, to update and combine villages 9 and 10, just to clean up the document. So if that's possible, I've added that as a condition. They use the same engineer for the same document, so it should be simple. They've also added heavy commercial as one of the zones that is to be identified in the community plan for their commercial zones. There's only one page in the community plan that identifies standards for commercial development in Wildflower, and it's what you see here, this map identifying potential uses that need to be assigned at Village Plan, and they've added heavy commercial to the south end and added it to the list of uses in the narrative there. Going on to Village Plan 5, I wanted to address a couple of questions that we had at our work session. So I just wanted to show some of the projects we were talking about at that work session to see their footprints. So on the left side are the Lehigh projects that we had some questions about and we're talking about. Those red numbers are in terms of 1,000 square feet. So on the west side is the Holbrook Farms Industrial Park in Lehigh. That is in the planned community zone as a part of Holbrook Farms. And there's a total of 575,000 square feet. The largest building that you see right up along Redwood Road is about 250,000 square feet. The buildings higher up on the west side are more similar to this size. You just can't really see it from the road as well. So those range from 55,000 to 150,000 square feet. So really similar, if you take out the 250,000 square foot building, similar to this project. And then the two buildings on 2100 North are actually not that far from this location, and those are both roughly 88,000 square feet in the Lewis Landing subdivision, and this is their heavy commercial zone, which we based a lot of our heavy commercial off of. So it's very similar to our HC zone as well. And then the North Shore Commerce Building is also similar in size. This is OW zoning, office warehouse zoning, on Pioneer Crossing. So we have, 89,000 square foot building and 124,000 square feet building. So I just wanted to show that since we had some questions on that. This is the proposed conceptual site plan for Village 5. The total square footage will be more than 584,360 square feet. I say more than because lot C2 is not included and was not included in any of the total numbers, the traffic study, the employment study. So there's just a big question mark there. So as a result of that, and with the addition of the HC zoning, staff is recommending that instead of OW, that we recommend leaving that as an HC zone. So this will determine the design standards, the uses, and the potential use for the site overall. They also identify medium-sized commercial development, which is a phrase that was in the community plan, as 30 to 228,000 square feet. So again, the condition is to update that to 170,000 square feet max. And their proposal here shows buildings, not including C2, from 56,000 to 169,000 square feet.
Tippy, Councilman Carn has a question.
Yes.
I was waiting.
Oh, okay. I just saw you were blinking.
First, after the.
While we're
I'm in
broke
the
you
queue.
up, if the applicant wants to come to the table, they're more than welcome. Okay.
All right. The applicant has made a separate request. This is not in the village plan itself, but this was a request made by DAI that Village 6 be proposed to have 1/3 of community commercial / regional commercial zoning, 1/3 of office warehouse / heavy commercial zoning, and 1/3 business park zoning. This was included as condition of approval number 5. Staff has provided several other options, including 1/3 of RC, HC, and BP zoning, just cleaning it up to just straight regional commercial, heavy commercial, and business park, or only regional commercial and business park zoning. So those are the options there, but you're welcome to recommend something different as well. Here's a summary of the code exceptions requested. These are all described in the staff report. As a summary of the site, it's just under 60 acres. They propose 4.5 acres of open space, but each of the commercial sites will meet city standards for the zone applied. So for any of these zones, that would be 20% of each lot to be landscaping. They proposed office warehouse zone vested in 2019 standards, as well as current heavy commercial standards for the heavy commercial zoned lots. And staff has recommended a condition that distribution centers, including fulfillment centers, logistics centers, and cross-dock facilities shall not be allowed as primary uses. In the report, staff defines it in terms of Title 19. We have an existing definition for distribution centers and logistics centers in our code. The applicant is proposing to use their defined standards instead, so you can have that discussion after the applicant's presentation. More code exceptions requested here include, on the bottom left, they have requested that a single user cannot occupy or lease more than 75% of a building, but they will, they've identified a path for the applicant to make a request of City Council. So you can look at this on a case-by-case basis if they want to exceed that 75%, and that will be by council. There's also another condition that staff has proposed: more than three or more public access entries on buildings 1 to 3 instead of 2, just because the buildings are so long. Having at least 3 will break up the elevation quite a bit more than just having two entries there. We've also added a condition based on the work session that we had to add standards specifically for the corners that were discussed. We did have a lot of good updates to, the entry design standards and some of the other information items here, but there wasn't anything specifying corners, so we wanted to make sure that was on there. I also wanted to point out, I believe you received a copy of this public comment from Monday, just noting that some residents have concerns with having office warehouse so close to their residential area as well. And with that, I'll turn the item over to the council, and the applicant does have a presentation.
Trusell?
Presentation? Okay. Do you want me here or there? Okay. No, I was just going to say I'm so glad that we still have that. I'm good with it. So I like being called out in your public meetings. And to get started, I'm grateful for that relationship. I am, and for the staff's help. And I apologize, I've gotten old in the time that I've been working with you. I have to take my glasses on and off to see. But I appreciate the considerations, thank you, and the relationship, the process, and the help of staff to get us here tonight. I know it wasn't easy, and there were compromises and negotiations, and I appreciate those relationships so that we could stay on track and be here this evening. So, and I'm grateful that Tippy and Sarah are usually at my beck and call. They're busy people, but they always return my call. So or my email. So I'm grateful for your staff and the time that they do dedicate to us. There's just a couple of items, a couple of things, and Tippy did a great job. Do I point at the screen?
Oh, if you just hit the arrow, it should, oh, it was just working.
Okay, so you know where we're located. This is Village Plan 5, and where it sits along Mountain View Corridor and SR 73. The next slide.
Yep, I think it should work now. Yeah.
Oops, that's backwards. Okay. The next slide is just our architectural requirements. As Tippy pointed out, we are working with staff, so the highlighted is the building corners. We recognize that we need to address that, and that we will be working with staff to have language so that there's some standards in there. One thing that we wanted to point out is we have done some upgrades to we didn't talk in the work session a lot about the architecture. So this is our new, and Tippy pointed out that we need 3 to 4 entries. There will be multiple entries, so we don't have a problem with that. The building is so long that this would be a mid-entry location, so we do plan for that so that you can see those. Some of the things that we've enhanced our elevations with are that we've added signage to both ends so that we're addressing the corners and the streets and the views. We've got enhanced glazing to match the sides. the front, excuse me. It's hard to see because we did a rendering in the daylight, but the canopies that you see in here on the corners and are illuminated. So that at night, those entries would be, have some little extra accents. We've changed the color palette so that we've got a more natural, neutral color palette that will blend better with the hillsides. We've increased the fenestrations, we've got modulated corners, and we've added lighting. So it's hard to see, but those linear decorative lights are things that we've added to these elevations for you. So these were the new ones. And as you can see, those were the past. So you can see the changes between the two.
And your trees are smaller.
Our trees, I got realistic. I actually got rid of the trees. Look. Oh, we need to move that down?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. I like them up there, but
Too close to the dark sky area.
yes, yeah, yeah. So those are our architectural changes, and we will work with staff to come up with language that would address that building corners. We talked about the square footages. We're okay with what the staff is suggesting for the CP and the 170,000 maximum because we have the clarification now that it's the footprint of the building. Our concern was that if RC came in and we wanted to do a multi-story building, then we may exceed that 170,000. But if we're just defining the footprint and it's 30,000 footprint and it's 6 stories, we should be fine. So I think we're good with all of those. And then the next language to be pointed out was the heavy commercial that's in there. We're good. Wanted to just discuss with you, I think everybody's had a chance to read the report. Are you good with the process that's being proposed here, where if we have a user for one of those large buildings, 1, 2, or 3, what we're saying is that we could make a written request and then be placed on a council agenda where we can then come in and present to you who that user would be and why it's justified, I guess, for a single user, because it would be a use that would be desirable to the city.
Councilman Wilden has a question on this.
Hey, Kevin, just to put you on the spot a little bit, and you may not have information on this. Have you looked at that wording? And I want to make sure that that process remains legislative versus administrative. Like, I don't want it to come in and the request has been made and it just has to be.
Yeah, what request is that again? I apologize,
No, that's fine. I know, like, I'm putting you on the spot, but maybe we can come back to that.
It's the heavy commercial, Kevin, where they want to take it to a single user.
Okay, let me look at that on my screen.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll be able to see that a lot better.
Because we were trying to limit single users so that we don't have big distribution centers.
But I do think
Correct.
it's important that it's legislative versus administrative.
Great. So while he's looking at that, the next part is the definition of distribution centers and logistic centers. We have an alternate motion at the back that you would hopefully entertain, in the fact that we would like to submit that you recognize the prohibitions that we have listed in the village plan on top of anything that's in Title 19. So that both definitions, it's not clear in your definition what a commercial office space means, and that makes us a little bit nervous. It's not a defined term in your code. And so there are some uses that would come in that may or may not have what you term that commercial office. And so, but I think that we're okay. And with the clarification that Tippy made for primary, if it's the primary use, yes. And not, because there's, yes.
Whoever's driving, can this go back onto YouTube? Because I put it on my screen here, it's easier for me to read.
It should be on YouTube.
Okay.
Presentation.
Sorry,
I'm seeing the council right now online. Thank you.
While you're doing that, Kevin looks like he's got an answer.
Yeah, I would just add at the end of that paragraph, the last sentence says, "This decision will be at the sole discretion of the city council and shall be considered a legislative decision." And then we should be good on that.
Okay,
Okay.
it's back. Thank you.
Okay. So you can see there that we've prohibited in that distribution and bulk distribution. Our concern was just that we will have businesses like users that are fulfillment. They come in with orders, they get their stuff and they send it out the door, right? And so the term primary use helps us with that definition. You've seen in your packet the agreement letters from CWP and Wadsworth for the drainage basin and that relocation. There is a page that we need to update in the current plan so that we show the pipe. The engineering report has a but if kind of statement if we were to do this. So I think we're all in line with what's being proposed, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood that we are wishing, well, CWCD is wishing to put a pipe because they need to build a water pump station up there, possibly a well, and so an open channel across their property would prohibit them there's not enough land. So we appreciate the cooperation of staff and everyone in helping us to make this come to fruition. One of the conditions in the report lists that we're not allowed to make any applications for future development until the agreements are formalized and executed for this work. We would ask that it be revised so that it was pertinent to the plans for this, because it doesn't make any sense for us to enter into agreement that doesn't necessarily have any drawings or specifications so that we all, on both sides, understand what needs into that agreement and included so that we can get the best agreement. We are totally in agreement that we would not want to have the permit and construction approved until that agreement is in place. So that's another additional consideration, that you just change that timing from any development application 5 to work pertaining to the drainage relocation. And then from the work session, and Tippy, if you want to pass these around, there's 10 of them because that's kind of hard to see. I know there's been concerns about the views and what this building is going to look like. So this enlargement that's coming are the views from I-15. We've identified the NSA building on those, as well as the Holbrook Industrial Park, which was one of Tippy's comparables. And then we've got our wildflower location. Very small, but most of those views are from 2 miles to 6 miles as you move down the page. And then there's a highlight on the edge that would place our project, as well as the NSA building and the Holbrook Farms building, because you can see Holbrook. I call it the skeleton building. No disrespect, but it looks like the teeth of a skeleton. So, with the black and white. So, but it is iconic and easy to reference. So if you've got any questions or concerns about what you're seeing, I'm happy to. We've got Greg Magleby here from our engineering office. They put this together for me so we can answer, but hopefully that addresses your concerns as far as what the views are from far, far away. The next thing we did was in the work session, we showed you the views from the intersection of 73 and Mountain View Corridor. And I've got these now because they're going to be really hard. I like to do it old school. You guys love this, right? I don't know if we need to pass them around, but this is the view. So the map that you see here, there's 4 locations, and our first one was a mile away. It was the intersection of Crossroads and Redwood Road. And we wanted to see,
Nikki, can you?
I was like, they're kind of small. They're
Yeah.
really small. And I can scroll.
Wide it.
No, this is the 4 different spots on the picture.
So it's the 4 different spots. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and yes. So we start at 1 mile, and then we go to 0.93 miles.
So they have the picture.
Yeah, that's view 2. And on the screen, you can see before and after construction. I was gonna play Where's Waldo with you because it's kind of hard to find, but you can see, so as we progress down that roadway, our last one is a half mile from that location.
Yes.
So is a half mile, and that's where it's the most visible. But because of the color changes that we made, I don't think that there's a concern anymore with.
It goes to the senior community.
Priscilla, just for the public record, the boards show the at construction completion picture that is on the screen. So you're not missing out if you don't see the boards.
Correct. Thank you, Tippy.
So the one that shows it on there is the farthest one away, so it's gonna be bigger and bigger.
As you get closer, yes. Yeah, and it really doesn't come into view until you're about a half mile away between stations 4 and 3.
And you didn't put in the freeway.
I have those pictures here if you want to see those again.
Because the flyover is gonna block it. but
Right.
Eventually, you won't even see these buildings, you're gonna see the flyover.
Correct,
From
correct.
From these vantage points, from this vantage point.
Yes, yeah. And I have those if you want to review them. I brought them with me, and I have them in the presentation at the end. But I figured since we went through the work session and you've got a full agenda, I would be brief. So you're welcome. I believe we worked out all of the grading issues and understandings in the work session, but I do have Greg Magleby from LEI here. If you guys still have concerns about grading, this is the updated grading page. And then these are the cross sections that we talk about that show the depths and heights and the slopes that we'll be feathering out to the property line. And then this was our average of 17 point, I can't remember, but that's our average fill depth based on those colored maps. And then, as you can see, these are my alternate motions. What the last thing we need to discuss is the Lot C2. And we are open to hear what you guys have to say. We are asking that it remain OW because that's what's been in front of you for a very long time. We understand that the HC was introduced. We introduced that as a compromise for Village Plan 6 and to open up the box to more possibilities there. So I think it's a related topic that I would love to get your input and information back as to what's going to happen there. But we are asking and hoping that it would stay OW and not become HC, just because there's some uses that get eliminated. And when we made application and planned this community, the 2019 code was what we made all of our plans under. So, but hopefully you've seen that we have adjusted and adapted, and we're willing to take your new codes on for design and definitions and those kinds of things. So with that, I appreciate your help.
Okay, Councilman Conver.
Okay, so I just have a couple things. The architectural changes, I appreciate a lot of the changes that were made. I especially appreciate the elevation changes. The buildings that were on Pioneer Crossing even have greater elevation change than what you, and I was hoping you were going to at least go back to what you had and then make it more, but you don't have the elevation changes because it really creates almost like a retail feel, even though there's the big doors in the back.
And it's hard to see at the angle, so there will be elevation changes moving back and forth,
And
but
then-
the up and down, because of the ceiling heights for the uses, and the 40-foot, we're happy to go 42 feet and
Well,
make
the
parapets go a little higher.
facade,
Yes.
facade, it doesn't allow, we limit that as well, the elevation. Okay, so I just, if we can't get the elevation changes there, like with the,
Right.
I also gave my feedback that I liked what was being done on 2100.
Yes, and we've
And I
looked at that both.
appreciate you put in on a huge building, much bigger than what's on 2100.
Mm-hmm.
They have windows across the entire side of the building. You put 4. And so they had literally windows across, and it's a smaller building.
Mm-hmm.
I would think natural light would be a good thing to have in your office warehouse. But this is where I get frustrated, is like I gave you sort of the answer key.
Right?
Last time I said, if you look at 2100, they did a really nice job. And even like the windows are like bigger and taller on the corners. I know you're gonna be reevaluating the corners and stuff, but they put windows across the whole side and it just creates a much nicer feel and less warehousey, because you're asking for exceptions, right? And so I just would expect that you would go above and beyond. So I think if you could just re-look at that a little bit more and just really think about the windows and the use of that. You have a huge section there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 verticals with no windows in the one plan I'm looking at, right? You have 2 windows, 5 panels, no windows, and then 2 more windows. I'm just looking at page 25. They can actually go back to it because they actually have the picture of it too in their presentation. And this one, it's in Tippy,
Right. Oh, no.
a little bit further.
Oh, wait, did I not?
No, further. It was the elevation. That's not it. While you're looking for that, but basically just, I mean, and I'm having a hard time, like, this is a legislative decision and I don't have what the corners are gonna look like. So we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna make them nicer. But I'm looking at 1, 2, 3 council members who live in this area, 2 former council members who live within a mile of this area, who are going to be looking at this. And every day. And so we talked about, let's make a difference, right? And don't just plant trees thinking that trees are gonna block the building. Okay, so more windows, again, and then the architectural changes. If we do choose to pass this, I hope that the council will support me in making a condition that we, based on staff coming back to us and saying, we feel like your corner elevations is met by what, your intent is being met by the developer. Instead of having to come back and potentially make another decision, I'm okay deferring to staff for that.
Yeah.
But some kind of condition that allows staff to make sure that the corner elevations really are improved.
It's my understanding that staff is working on regular corner guidelines to be added. Oh, true.
We are working on something like that.
Right, but I'm just saying, but with their corner,
And-
I would
yeah.
like a condition that says that staff is in agreement that this is an enhanced corner, whatever, because we're trying to get them an approval, but I have a hard time approving something that I can't see. So right there, you guys, the corner is not how it's gonna look, it's supposed to be more enhanced. So, and then you can see the 5 panels in between the windows. Where the,
Those are small windows.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about, but if you look on 2100, they have those small windows across the entire side of the building, and it just really creates a more retail environment versus a warehouse environment. Because a lot of these uses are gonna be more retail in nature, i.e. look at Pioneer Crossing, jump houses and.
One of the conditions in the staff report, they did not add language that addresses the corner. They did add this image, and this image is their proposal for the updated corner. So I want to be clear about that.
So this is their updated corner.
This is their proposal for the updated corner. So if you would like to see more, we need to be specific in the condition.
Okay.
And
Well,
I would agree that we have upgraded that corner, but knowing that the corners, we didn't know that we needed to add a section for corners. And so we're willing to work with staff, knowing that they're working on corners and take your information in as well. And
So this doesn't feel enhanced. This feels like you've changed the color.
Well.
This corner's not, if you look at your drawing, you have, and Chriselle, you and I go long, way back, and we've done this, and we've done this many times. But it looks exactly like it was when it was white and gray, and now it's brown, but the corner still looks the same.
Well, we've added the sign. There wasn't signage on the side before. We also didn't have the.
Well, adding signage, please, every business always wants signage. That is not an upgrade, because every single business that comes into you is gonna say, can I have 5 signs?
Right. But
We've been fighting signs for many years, so.
we didn't have the canopies on the side. Those are additional.
The canopies above the doors were there,
No, on the front only.
on the front, but you had a canopy and you added it on the other side, which,
We've taken that around the corner, right?
Okay.
That's addressing the corners. We've also added lighting that will continue down the side and the corners.
which you would need lighting for safety.
Well, the awnings, can't call them awnings, they're canopies, are illuminated. And then we've also added decorative lighting, which according to your staff will need to.
And I guess I didn't make
So-
myself pretty clear. I thought I was pretty clear last time.
I knew you, no, I heard you. You
mean,
said I was going to have
like,
to step it
this needs
up.
to be stepped up. And I mean,
Right.
adding something that should be there, like, I'm talking about drastic, like windows across the side, a more like taller windows even that on the corners that feels very open. The signage, I appreciate you wanting to put on both sides, the lighting, et cetera. But like, there are a lot of lighting options that's not really, if anything, you're lighting up and you're gonna make it a beacon, and I'd rather almost have it
No, these are
minimal lighting.
Very directional.
Yeah,
lighting,
I'd almost want
dark
minimal lighting
sky.
so that it's not
Right.
this isn't a focal point building that we have in our city that people like the lighting on. This is one we
Correct.
want to diminish the lighting on, okay?
Right.
So if
Gotcha.
we could just really rethink this, I just frustrating, but I'm done there. You know where I'm at on that. And I hate it that I might be saying no to this because you didn't hear me. And I thought I was so clear. And I've been clear in one-on-one meetings, group meetings, over and over again. So now if we move on to C2, okay, this is where you coming in 3/4 of the way through, and you've done an amazing job. I gave you huge kudos last time about really turning this around, because this was dead in the water. This, just for the council members here, just to give you a little history, we actually denied it, and they begged us to reopen it. And we'd never done that before, where we actually re-put it back so they didn't have to do another application to fix it, because it's already been denied once. And you should see their faces, they were like, oh, that's never happened. Okay, so C2, this is where the history. The whole point of this area was supposed to be mixed use. It was supposed to be office warehouse, business park, some commercial. It was supposed to be a nice mixed use, all spread out. They begged and begged and begged and begged and begged that this would be all office warehouse. And now they're saying, oh, but this is supposed to be office warehouse too. No, yes, it was office warehouse, but it was a mix. Office warehouse, regional commercial, but the whole thing. So now this whole thing became office warehouse without any other use. It takes away the right, in my personal opinion, for office warehouse in C2. Because that needs to be regional commercial, that needs to be mixed use, not storage units, not anything like that. And then you know for a fact that we are very adamant about the next phase that goes to the west, that don't try and come in legislatively to say, I want a bunch of office warehouse here. And this is where legacy information, people who've been around a while, who have been a part of these kinds of conversations, have a lot of value. Because as a city council member, I've seen this project from the very beginning, from when the freeway was approved. I've been here. And so that is, for me personally, that is no longer a vested right for office warehouse there, because you got all of this concentrated office warehouse here, which it wasn't supposed to be that way. When we made the decision, and in fact, there are people in this room who made that decision that aren't sitting up here anymore. We've said mixed use for all throughout this, and this huge section is no longer mixed use.
Councilman Connor, C2 would actually help. With the reduced use, help create a buffer between some of those neighborhoods across the street to this development. I agree.
Just to have it be It
can be RC.
RC, regional commercial, you can get a lot of stuff in there.
And
not only the stuff that's to the north and to the.
And to the east, yeah.
I think
I
all
agree.
of them will feel a lot better because technically, if we really look at these warehouses, they are far enough south that it's really, they got this vested right even before the senior community was put in. So the people in the senior community knew what was coming across the street, in my opinion. But the people north of this did not know because this was supposed to be mixed use, all different kinds of uses here. So thank you, Chris, for your insights as well. So in terms of your requests, the condition for considering the drainage system, I have no problem with that. So
Just to give a
again,
little.
I'm one of five, but I think that if they're trying to get this drainage thing figured out, that kind of contract, I know what we were trying to say is we don't want a bunch of other contracts going on around. But in terms of the drainage, it seems logical to me, but please.
Oh, yeah. So our condition of approval was to have the agreement executed before this could come to council, which is our standard for any village plan or community plan or application to have an executed agreement. So that's how we drafted it. So with the letters, we said we still needed that executed agreement, but just past this step of city council approval. So she's asking for a building permit, having the executed agreement before building permit.
Not before, well, we'd have the agreement before building permit, yes.
If you're
Or
okay
in
with that, then if we do that,
On that, whether or not we are comfortable with the agreement coming with building permit rather than preliminary plat application?
My question is really why the delay? And
well, we've all worked with the canal company.
Well, and we have, from our engineers, heard that we've already, our engineering department have already reviewed the construction drawings for the channel more than once, so several times already. And that there's just a few changes left at this point. So we have been reviewing the construction drawings for the channels, so we're not understanding the applicant's hesitancy to provide that agreement with the preliminary plat application.
fundamentally, I think the concern that we have, as we've had in other situations, is we're told, yes, we'll have this, and it doesn't materialize, and then there's pressure on, well, what about this? What about this? Can we move forward? And so we're just trying to have a very clear, bright line on what that looks like going forward. So ultimately, it's a policy decision that the council gets to
make. And I
make.
appreciate staff's input for sure. I mean, for me, I think where I have been again, I'm one of five, but where I have been so stern in so many of these areas, for this one, you well know that you're not going to start building a building if you don't have it.
Correct.
And there's no coming back.
Right.
No matter who's up here, there's no coming back and asking because we've been very clear. And so as one of five, I'm okay with that condition that you asked. And what was the other one? I apologize. I didn't take a note. Pulled up, Tippy, their two conditions on their presentation.
Sarah's
The very last slide, I believe.
So it's the permit, the C2, and then noting that the definition of HC and office warehouse.
Yeah, and I read your
Acknow-
definitions, and I don't have a
acknowledges our
problem with those
definition.
definitions.
Yeah.
It is lacking in our code. It's something that we can take a note on to have update. I mean, I keep looking at some of my old peers because we've done so much work on code over the years that there's always going to be changes. But I didn't have a problem with the definitions to fill the gap because I believe transparency is key. And when there is mixed definitions or conflicting definitions, that's when we have problems, i.e. your previous project, right?
Yes.
We had a lot of issues because we had some definition. We worked through it, but it was painful.
Yes.
Okay, so I covered all three of the main conditions, I believe.
There's 4 requests that they're making here. So the one that hasn't been covered yet is HC zone properties shall follow city code for standards not identified in the village plan. Staff doesn't have a concern with that. And then condition 8E, staff doesn't fully understand the concerns with their alternative suggestions. So there's language in the proposed village plan related to what uses are and aren't allowed. And then staff's condition is that we also include the definitions in Title 19. And we don't actually see any discrepancy between the two that should be causing any concerns, so we're not fully understanding.
And again, council, we were very specific with trying to identify the concerns that we perceived and what we got from the many times that you've given feedback on this. So our attempt at trying to identify all of these issues, including the office warehouse issue and C2, is to make sure that your desires are being met based on what we perceived your direction has been to staff and to the applicant. And so fundamentally, it's a policy decision at this point. We just wanted to make sure that we shined a bright light on the issues so that you were aware of the conversations that were happening.
And I appreciate that because so many circular conversations, it can become very difficult and red lines can become really messy. So, but if you wanted to give some
I was
clarification
gonna
why
say,
you
so
need more
we're fine
definition.
with that last one, my condition 4, as long as you use the word primary like Tippy had in her proposal. So that
Primary
one,
use. So the idea is, you know, you can have distribution as part of a retail user,
Of
but it's
course.
not a distribution center. So they just want to be clear on that as primary use.
So distribution of your retail product versus distribution center,
Center, as
i.e.
defined.
Amazon.
correct.
Yeah.
No Amazon.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilman Wilden.
I'm just finishing my notes. I'll just jump right into it. Condition 5, where it talks about there's 3 different options, A, B, and C. I'm in favor of C. It's only regional, commercial, and business.
Conditions of the cities.
Oh,
Yeah.
Of our own conditions,
Sorry,
yes.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Option C, retail, RC and business park. I don't want to see any more office warehouse, any more heavy commercial. And then lot C2, I'm actually not even comfortable with heavy commercial. I would prefer it to be RC. The reason being is that piece is the closest to the existing homes. We leave it office warehouse, there's going to be storage units there, heavy commercial, we could have a pawn shop, office high intensity, I don't know what that is. It just sounds intense to me. I know what it is, I'm joking. But the point is, I'm not even comfortable anywhere with heavy commercial at this point. The door is still open, meaning you can come back in and ask for a rezone and other things, but we need to protect the existing homes in that piece. The only reason I'm considering, not the only reason, but part of the reasons I'm considering this is to get the office warehouse, heavy commercial away from existing homes. And then we already talked about.
I just addressed that really quick. Just wanted to remind the council that there are 5 options in the community plan, not just regional commercial, but neighborhood commercial, community commercial, regional commercial, business park, and office warehouse. So I know you're talking about that condition, but you have, among the menu of options, you had all those 5.
What was it? It was neighborhood commercial, business park, regional commercial, and community commercial.
Right.
So I'm good with putting those 4 into Village Plan 6. And then C2 is not heavy commercial or not office warehouse. As far as the various recommendations, I'm not like heavily opposed to it, but the reality is we've gone through a long process here, and in some places, we're even back here in opposition to staff recommendations. I'm going to stick with the recommendations at this point, other than the one that they seemed really comfortable with, which was putting primary in front of
primary.
distribution.
Oh, so you're against not having one around the drainage channel, the storm drain?
The timing of the permit.
I would just I would prefer to stick with staff's recommendation at this point. We've gone, we've just gone a long ways, and I need to stick with staff's recommendation at this point because, again, we're even here that staff wasn't overly excited to get back to where we are here today. And so I'm going to be supportive of their recommendations. I mean, although some of them don't seem all that unreasonable, I'm not seeing all the potential unintended consequences if we change those. I just don't know what they are.
Do you have a comment later to this, Councilman?
Add on to his. So my question is for option C. The current staff recommendation is Village 6 shall be comprised of RC and BP only. Are you open to making that RC, BP, NC, and CC?
And NC, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all 4 of those.
Right, okay.
Just not office warehouse. and
Because that's
not-
what the original plan called for, is a
Yeah.
mixed use of all those.
And thanks, Kevin. That was a good call. There was one more, but I'm forgetting it right now. Oh, Councilman McComber, I agree with like the corner elevation staff. You mentioned there's a condition in there about like architecture. I'm just not seeing it.
That it was missing and standards need to be added for the corner.
Which number is that?
Oh, let me go to it.
I usually like remember them all, but when we have like,
It's a lot, yeah.
yeah, that's the problem. I was trying to read through it.
It's 8D2, and it just says increased standards shall be added for building corners. So we don't get into the specifics, so which we think that could be a good idea, to be more specific here. The applicant did have a list on their presentation of items that they've added, but not percentages or anything like that, but it was to match the elevation that's proposed. So if you would like to see more than what they've proposed in their elevation, I think that that's important to make note.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to do that, but I think we could delegate that to staff.
Conditions that allow.
Yeah. You look super uncomfortable with it.
Well, the reason I have some discomfort with that is it's hard when we have anything that's ambiguous.
You can't read our mind, is that what you're saying?
So I think a better condition would be that the elevations need, it can come back to council for approval, but it also needs to have greater enhancements than what's in the proposal.
Like
I
the
like
site
that.
plan would come to the council?
That one item, yeah. That way,
Just looking at
we get it
elevation.
We
moved
can get this
forward.
moving
It
forward.
would get my vote if they had that.
Yep,
So it would be a condition that at site plan approval, it come before council with the architecture.
With an enhanced architecture.
the
Additional windows, additional.
8D3. 2, oh my
Two.
goodness, okay.
And does that also need to be identified as a legislative item?
I think it would be best. Can it? Yes.
Similar to what we did with,
Yep,
with that language about the 75% of a single
this is gonna be a
user.
mess of a motion.
Add the same verbiage on that.
I'll try.
I'll second it with you because I've been taking notes as well.
Okay, good.
Councilwoman Barton has.
I got
she's been
Bart's
patient.
quality notes here.
Oh, she didn't even hear her call out.
You didn't hear it?
She's missing her call out.
I said I got Bart's quality notes here.
Okay, are you done, Councilman Wilden?
Yes.
Okay.
Was
Councilwoman Barton.
Carnes finished?
First off, I want to say that, so the background knowledge, say Michael has and that Stevens had and stuff like that with this project has been super invaluable for me as a newbie, right? To get that background knowledge, hey, this is what this is supposed to be in the first place. Michael probably, he is aware that I'm calling with questions all the time, right? Anyway, because he has been here for a while and that background, I couldn't do it without that. And so I really appreciated him with answering my questions and all that kind of stuff. For me, this is still super warehousey. I think we need more windows. I think putting a sign up there actually makes it more warehousey instead of enhancing. Not that you don't need to put signs. Obviously, you're gonna have a sign there. But adding that to make it look better on the corners does not make it look better, in my opinion. But that one section that Michael had brought up, that whole section with nothing but a wall, it's different colors. It's not the white skeleton thing we have, but it's also just a wall. So I feel like windows would very much enhance that area right there. Also, and I think everybody said this, but I'm in agreement. We can't have that condition C, that part. It can't be anything. It has to be this mixed use area. Again, C2. C2. Yes, thank you. A few of us live up there, and we will be driving past this and seeing this probably 5 to 10 times a day. And we want to make sure we're sticking up for that area because we do get thrown a lot of stuff in the north. And so I want to make sure we're doing right by our residents in that area as well. And so that this is the south end does help Stephen had said, sorry, Wilden. But yeah, I'd like to see a few changes, just in the corners, and however we put that in there, right, is part of the thing to make that, we have that in there, yeah. And again, some more windows if we can to make it look less warehousey, and whatever we need to put in there to make sure that the C part, sorry.
Before they do site plan, they're gonna have to come with a
Yes,
new version
yes,
of the building.
yes. That's what I'm trying to put. I'm not doing a very good job here because I'm a little frustrated with the whole thing too, because I feel like like, it's not quite what, we've been through a lot of this, right? And I've had a lot of questions that I've been asking and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm in agreement with what everybody's saying. I appreciate, all the photos and stuff like that. That's helpful as well. But that was very confusing because I'm confused. I'm talking about it.
And you're wanting to stick with staff recommendations?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, I'll end, Councilman Wadman.
Everything that's been said has been great. I couldn't have done that same level of scrutiny. That being said, we will see this, so, and being a long-term resident of Saratoga, I appreciate the effort that's gone before me and that's going on currently to make sure that this is a good product. And thanks for the effort. The only comment that I'd have is, can we add more trees? I'll leave it at that.
If they're 30 feet, you're 30 years old.
Phase 15.
That's it.
Perfect. Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I'll try this. I move that we approve business item 10 as stated on the agenda with staff findings and conditions with the following modifications. First, where it references the definition of distribution points, adding the word primarily. Did I get that right? Primary?
Primary.
Primary use. Condition 5, using option C with a modification that it may only include neighborhood commercial, community commercial, business park, or regional commercial, and no office warehouse or no heavy commercial. Condition 8A, Lot C shall be assigned regional commercial zoning.
Or neighborhood commercial.
Or neighborhood commercial or community commercial.
Yeah.
But no office, I'm being very specific, no office warehouse or no
Heavy commercial.
heavy commercial. Thank you. I'm like 15 minutes.
We're here,
into
we're a
the motion.
team.
Thank you. Modifying condition 8D2, where it states increased standards shall be added for building corners. We're going to have that be returned to the council to review enhanced, enhanced standards and architectures for the building corners, which shall be a legislative decision.
Building corners and sides.
Building corners and sides. And I'd like to see those as documented standards versus, so when I say I'd like to see, and they shall be, documented standards, not just visual images. That's it.
And I'll second that. Well done,
Okay,
Councilman Weldon.
I have
Wait, Kevin has something, I think.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden, a second from Councilman McComber. Sounds good. Further discussion from the attorney.
With adding to page 4-01 about the single occupancy at the end of that paragraph that, where it says, this decision will be at the sole discretion of the city council, and add the language, and shall be considered a legislative decision.
Thank you. I didn't number that on my paper. This is only porter quality, not barge quality. So amending my initial motion where it states around the to appeal to have a larger occupant, that this decision will be at the sole discretion of the city council and shall be considered a legislative decision.
Amended second.
Okay, amended first, amended second. Any further discussion? Wadman?
Aye.
Barton?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Carn?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you
I
very
still
much.
can't believe it.
Yes.
Those of you, Chriselle made this happen, I'm just saying. It would not have happened.
We will
Didn't
be,
happen last time.
we will be back with our site plan after we get you an agreement for the storm drain.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Because they got it last time.
Right. Right.
Are we still waiting on number 9?
Here, do you want to take these?
Sarah? Number 8 here?
He's still not here. He's still not here.
Okay.
He's still not here.
Yep.
But
Should we table it till next week so we can move on?
it's complicated, so how about we present it, and if there's issues, then we can table it, if there's not, we can make a motion.
Okay.
Okay.
We, they.
Us.
We as a city.
Item 8.
The collective we.
We as a team.
Collectively, of course not me.
Of course, not me. So we're on 8.
Yep.
Do we need to announce it, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Business item 8, Wildflower.
Yes, 8.
Oh, no, we're good. Go for
Okay,
it.
awesome. So this is Village Plan 9 in the Wildflower Community Plan. It is proposed to be a combination of Villages 9 and 10, which was just approved with the Community Plan Amendment. So that has been taken care of. This is the final residential village plan within Wildflower, and is the largest one. It's part of the Planned Community Zone. And our applicant, who is not here right now, is BJ Ryan with Lennar Homes. So we'll go ahead. Here is the zoning map, like I said, part of the Planned Community Zone. The zoning map here shows VP9 and VP10. As stated, this is a combination now of those two village plan areas as outlined in the community plan. The total acreage of this area is 311 acres. Of that, about 110 acres will be open space. There are a total of 1,022 residential ERUs that are proposed as part of this. This is consistent with the community plan, and I have a slide that goes through it. Of note, there are 644 of those ERUs that are supposed to be single-family as outlined in the community plan. That's type 1, 2, and 3. There was a mistake in my staff report. Type 1, it's a typo in the village plan itself as well. It was shown as less than 5,000 square feet and then greater than 5,000 square feet. Those type 1 are greater than 5,000 square foot lots. So I apologize for that typo there. As stated, this does match the community plan for VP 9 and 10. And as part of this as well, it does identify a future school site and church site as part of this. Those type 4 units are the multifamily units. They will all be townhomes for this development. So there won't be any apartments or condos as part of this. It'll all be townhomes. So here's another look at that detailed use exhibit. The other thing I'll mention as well, Wild Blossom Boulevard, you'll know it terminates at the south there. Staff has had conversations with Eagle Mountain about the alignment of that road through Eagle Mountain and what that connection will look like. So hopefully that is happening sooner rather than later on the horizon. But we have been present in multiple conversations that they've had discussing that alignment and what that might look like. Getting into the ERU transfers, as stated, the 1,022 ERUs that are proposed with this is consistent with the CP. They are utilizing multiple transfers that were permitted through the amended and restated master development agreement for this property, as well as in the community plan. I have them noted there, 31 units that were transferred from Village Plan 8, which constitutes 3% of the 15% max ERU transfer allowed by the community plan. And then they were allotted 14 type 4 units as part of a transfer for the city cemetery property, which is also part of this village plan area. The elevations that were included and standards included therein were proposed to be consistent with city code. They'll match Village Plan 8, and the applicant is proposing to meet all of city code on those. And so with that, any questions you have for staff, I'll be happy to answer at this time.
Councilman McComber?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is in line with what we originally had approved, and the transfers were all, I mean, very transparent, and it says complies throughout. And But my concern is they don't comply. Their existing phases, they still don't have their open space available. These people are paying $300 a month, which is crazy HOA dues for this city. $300 a month, and they have access to nothing. Pickleball courts with no nets, no fencing, a huge pond that they can't even use, a dog park that has falling over fence pieces. Like, how's that a dog park? And so I just am very concerned with approving more when they can't even do their current. So I love that, I always comment, I love how it says can comply or complies and all the way through, but this developer has proven to not comply. Tippy at the
No.
applicant.
Thanks. I will just say for Ladar Homes, who is an applicant for this village plan, is different than the previous developer, DAI Utah, who was responsible for those open space areas. Lennar just took, in the last couple of months, just took ownership of those applications, and we've seen a lot of progress, specifically on the lake and the dog park.
We've seen a little progress, and it's been more than a couple months. It's been quite a few months. But you know what I hear? They blame us. They do. They're blaming everyone up here, and technically a couple other people in the room right now. They're blaming us for the delay, and that's a bold-faced lie. And I know I'm speaking to a messenger. The applicant didn't have the respect to be here, BJ Ryan. We don't have traffic in Saratoga Springs at 8:30. We do at 6. I get it. I get it. He maybe would be here late. Okay, so a priority. Okay, so, I mean, can't imagine that one being less. That other city meeting has more than 1,300 homes. Like, come on, like, this is a huge amount ask. So I'm actually getting a little shaky because I just don't trust. And let's be honest, Lennar doesn't have a great track record. What he did in Wander, he put in 4 siding on the front of the houses because there was a loophole that he found in the Oakwood Homes contract. And so he put siding on the front of homes instead of any kind of rock or anything nice, and there's nothing we could do about it. So he hasn't proven to be a great loyal player. So I have a really hard time approving. So I think it was sort of ironic that you said, if there's no problems, no issues. I have a really hard time approving more when they haven't even been able to do with what they have. And I get that maybe DAI and everything, but he has had this for a good 5 months. And in that time, Lennar and his staff have blamed us consistently.
Residents reach out.
When I get an email and they're forwarding me the email that they're getting from them saying they blame us. This isn't just word of mouth. This is them actually sending emails saying, we won't approve permits because they built things without a permit. I know the history. They built dog park without a permit. They built the water thing without the permits. We came in and said, you can't open something that you didn't have a permit. And then when we permit it, they were out of compliance. So they had to fix things because we need to make sure these things are safe. But it's not the city's fault, it's their fault. And we need to be communicating better, and maybe we need to have some messaging that can go out to, and this is where Annalisa can step in, maybe to the wildflower community and say, the city has done nothing. We have not delayed any decision, any approval, period. We have done everything we can to get you your open space amenities. And so I just get really frustrated when, oh, we're ready for our next phase, approve, when they haven't been a good player in the past. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Wadman, or Willen had a comment.
I think since they're not here, we just don't take any motion, and they need to be here, so we.
And they need to speak to that.
Yeah, no, that's why, so they can speak to that, and I think we're ready to move on to other things. Like, they weren't here on time, so that's my opinion.
Yeah.
We have other things to go.
Okay, Tippy?
So we actually have the engineer for the project here that can speak to some of your questions.
Yeah, I wasn't here specifically for Lennar tonight, but with BJ not being here, I'll be glad to help you with some of the questions. One of the big changes that I've seen, and I've worked with both DAI and Lennar through the whole process of Wildflower, is that there has been significant increase of effort and requests coming to us to facilitate the changes and the moving forward through the villages and also the dog park, the rec pond, All those things, I have seen some significant changes on our side of implementing these things so that they become, usable for the community.
It's been 3.5 years.
I think my take, council can take it for what it's worth. The open space they promised for the residents that are there need to be finished first before we add more residents that are mad that the open space isn't done.
That's exactly it.
Yep.
But they're not here to have that discussion, so. Councilman Carn?
Yeah, I just want to, because I've gotten several people reach out to me on this. I actually have a family member who's an HOA president in this neighborhood, and he keeps calling me saying, why is the city stopping our lake from opening? Because that's what they're telling their residents, it's the city's fault. And I'm tired of hearing that, and I've tried to educate. I do think it's important that residents realize that we are not approving 1,022 new homes. This is density that was approved in 2015 when the state prison was going to be located on this site. So we can, state prison.
State prison.
State prison.
I heard president. We don't.
No, the state prison. So this was before my time, but I understand there was a compromise of 900 beds or 2,000 doors. And I think the city council at the time probably made a pretty prudent decision with that. One thing I want to point out that really frustrates me when I look at these plans is when I see a developer put future church site and future school site when there's been no communication with any church or any school district on buying those sites. They put that on there to make it look rosy for their future residents. But if you ask the school board, there's been no conversation about a future school site. And if they're that serious about it, well, donate that land to the school district.
Yeah, sure.
But don't put it on there if you've not even talked to those entities. That's frustrating.
I agree.
Because it's not reality.
Yeah, if I could discuss that, we have looked at that site as a charter school site. We have seen layouts. We've provided all the grading criteria. We've worked with the church for the site for the parking and a building for the LDS church there. So
Okay.
those things have been in progress. We've gone back and forth with grading and utilities on both.
I would love it if you put future charter school site and take that pressure off the school district, because that'll come back to us. We're not schools, we're not district.
Still comes back.
That will come back to us. You said in this plan that the school district would have a public school here. So
Now it's not.
if you want to put a charter school site on there, then that's great.
Then say
Councilman,
charter.
okay, Mark, you got a
And
comment.
with it mentioned as a charter school, I would say, Mayor and Council, we have had significant issues with the kind of traffic that comes along with charter schools. And fundamentally, we have not looked at this site plan as a
The
charter school
transportation study on
from a
that.
transportation standpoint. So again, I would suggest, and I think Councilmember Wilden suggested that you table the item.
Yep.
And let the developer respond. But fundamentally, charter schools have an incredible amount of traffic that are
Because they're
associated with them.
magnet schools.
And we have not looked at this site relative to it being not a walkable school and certainly not using buses, but that kind of car traffic would be significant.
Oh, I have one final comment. I have had a lot of discussions with people in Eagle Mountain about Wild Blossom. That attaches to their Walmart area, their shopping area. We've got to make sure that this gets connected. It'll help our traffic overall if that's connected sooner than later.
There's really a Walmart that close to our home?
It's 3.5 miles from ours. It'll open in like December.
300?
3.5 miles. It's opening this year.
I know, I think Walmart
Yeah.
is
So
smart.
Councilman Wilden would like to make a motion. Councilman Wadman, you're good? Okay.
Can I do it now?
Yep, you can do it.
Okay. I move that we table business item 8 to a future council meeting.
Second.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden, a second from Councilman Carn. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That was so much
Be
easier.
tabled.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And then item 11, amendments to the Saratoga Springs City Code, Title 2.06, taking office, adding term limits, Ordinance 2539. This is an item I put on the agenda after talking with Mayor Byrd out in Roosevelt, looking at what they've done in Harriman, looking at what Sandy City and some of them have done, and kind of looking at what's happening on the national stage with term limits. We talk about it often. Been in the city a long time. Years ago, there weren't a lot of us. A lot of us had young families. As we've gotten bigger, the ability to draw from a pool of talent has gotten bigger. So I'd like to propose this to the council to add this to section 2.06. I did receive a comment from a councilman after they had a chance to review this in the packet. Instead of limiting terms for, lifetime, that you could, after a break, come back. I'm okay with that. I think that's probably better than
I hate the lifetime.
lifetime.
Yeah. That was my suggestion.
That was Willen's suggestion. I was trying not to throw you under the
No, my concern, and some others brought it up, is lifetime. I would just suggest that if it's like 16 consecutive years, they have to take a 4-year break, and then. It's 12. And then if it's the same office, like 2, the way it's written.
So I was good with that change for that, but I'd like to open it up to discussion to put this in. There's an effective date. I'm not looking to go retroactive unless we want to go back to the very last term that's only a year in, or if we want to start with this next election. So it wouldn't be retroactive going back to the dawn of time in the city.
So I have a question first off, because I think this goes back to the very beginning of it. I'm just wondering with a decision that's of this magnitude, like this is a change in how our city gets ran, right? Is why this didn't come to us as a work session instead of just on the agenda to vote on. So usually everything that we have like this comes for a work session, we discuss it, we decide the decisions like Weldon had said, that kind of stuff. And then it comes back to us 2 weeks or a month later with some of the things that we had discussed. So for me, when I saw this on the agenda already without it being a work session, super frustrated because I'm like, oh my gosh, why is this not a work session? This is the process. This is how we do things. We bring things to a work session, we discuss it. Staff takes what we've discussed, they bring it back to us, and we change things. And so I guess that's my concern, is why this wasn't brought to us as a work session.
In all fairness, not everything comes to a work session.
No, it doesn't.
It changes tonight.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
But with something
Okay.
with this magnitude was my concern. Like, this is a big deal. This is something that we all hopefully, this is a big decision that we're making for our city. And so the fact that we're not using the processes that we usually use, again, we don't use it all the time, but for decisions like this. So I guess answer whatever it is. I'm just wondering why we didn't see it as a work session instead of just already on the agenda to vote on.
Because it's pretty simple. Term limits are not term limits.
It's not simple. I don't feel like it's simple. Some of us might. I don't feel like it's a simple decision because, again, term limits, the concept is simple, but the fact that we're changing how our city government is ran is not simple, and it should be a big discussion about it.
And my intent, is we get this on, we approve it, if the council goes that way. And then I will work with some people who are willing to sponsor it, to put it on a referendum, to put this out to the residents, to let the voters decide. If they want to overturn it, that's great, overturn it. If they want to uphold it, it just.
I'm all about that too. I just feel like to get it out there,
Timing.
we should have been having about a big work session about it. So that's my concern, is that.
I can respect your thoughts and position on that.
I have a question on the effective date. The section shall have an effective date of May 20th, 2025. Does it have to be that, or can it be effective January 1, 26? Or December 31, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We can either do it for this coming election, or we could backdate it 1 year, but I wouldn't go back further.
You could put it forward to
We could put it forward, either way. I don't care.
I think that's the cleanest.
Okay, so put it forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And
is.
then, if this is on there and if it's referred and upheld, I guess, people who are running know what
Going forward.
what it is going forward, yeah.
Correct. Councilman McComber?
I have a couple questions. I definitely appreciate the lifetime. I think that one, it wasn't consistent with what was below, because then it says 4 elected terms, and then 16 years of time served except as provided in 1C below. But then on B, I'm a little bit concerned, questioning why it says no elected official may serve more than 3 consecutive terms, when in 1AI, it says 4 elected terms.
It's the same position, right?
Shouldn't it be no elected official may serve more than 4 consecutive terms in the same position? And any individual who completes 4 consecutive terms in one position must wait at least one municipal cycle, 2 years, before running for that position again. So that actually does cover former council member Barch's comment about having a gap, because you have it here in 1AB. So why is it 4 elected terms in 1AI? And see, this is the kind of conversations we would have had if
In
we
a
had
work session, this is my
But
concern.
no elected official may serve more than 3 consecutive terms. Is it 3 or is it 4?
I think originally my thought was 12 years, 3 terms. But the reason for a 2-year gap would be somebody could come off of an off-cycle election, take a 2-year break, come back, run for the mayor's office if they so wished, without having that penalty. But if you did 4 years in one, you'd have a 4-year break. I'm open to, if we want to change that to 4 and 4, 3 and 3 would be my preference.
So it's not clear that it's, because it says for that same position again. So if they switch to mayor, my personal opinion, it's a completely different role. You don't have a vote. You're completely an ambassador to the city. You represent us on MAG. You do a lot of things, but it's a completely different role. And so I don't understand why the 16 years counts for both. If anything, it should be, you know what I mean? Like, if you run for mayor, then at that point,
So
you
you're
start
saying do
over.
3 and 3 for both, or 4 and 4?
I mean, I'm okay with the 4 elected terms, and then, but then 4, if you switch to mayor, let's say you were on the council for 8 years, or even 6 years, or whatever it is, and then you switch to mayor, you should start over. And, I mean, I know this is going forward, but I'm saying, in the hypothetical, if you switch to mayor, then you should start at 16 again, because I consider it a completely different role. And I also think it's really important that some of the positions you've held, Jim, because you have been here so long, you wouldn't have on MAG if you didn't have the years behind you. Because you wouldn't have gotten those chairman seats, you wouldn't have gotten those ability to really make a difference and get a lot of funding to our city because you were in a position to lobby for us, because that is really the role of the mayor.
That'd be 32 years if you did
If
both.
you did 16 as the council and then 16 as the mayor, but I personally think it's completely, well, if you want to do 32 years, then you've got another issue, but if you have, but I'm saying it's a completely different role. And I mean, again, this is where the conversation, the debate, I just think that I'd like to get more,
More clear on the
and
wording,
be
more
people,
clear.
other people talking to them.
I
talking to
love
other
public
people,
feedback. We need
because
some more public feedback.
It is 3 terms and 3 terms, and then you have that clause if, like, someone runs halfway through their term. You know, I just think it's cleaner instead of having the whole, if you're halfway through a 2-year term and you're on the off cycle for the city council, then you can run for mayor, and then you only got 9 more years or whatever. Just make it clean, and if it's 12 or if it's 16, that's where we have the conversation. My last thing is I would have loved to have had this conversation and have it be an open meeting where we could have had back and forth, because I would have loved to have seen us switch to 2 at large, 3 regional. I think at 70,000 people, we're there. And right now, I'm sitting on a dais with 3 people that live within 4 blocks of each other. And is that representative of the city of Saratoga Springs? I don't think so. And at one point, Chris and I lived a block away from each other. And so I think that I would have liked to, if we're going to do this, let's do it. Let's switch to 3 at large.
It's a conversation
2
we
at
should be
large and
having.
3 regional, because then we can make sure that someone south of 400 South gets a spot. And then there's someone in the central gets a seat guaranteed. And then someone in the north. I mean, the school board, we're a brand new school district that we're forming, and it's not even, I mean, it's still big, but we actually have regional instead of just at large for school board, where the school board easily could have done just at large across the board for the new school district. So,
That's state code, though.
yeah, but I'm just saying, but they could have done that, and then not against state code, but just the concept. And so I would have liked to have, like, let's had a cohesive, instead of coming back and readdressing and coming back, we're gonna have one big full conversation, because, I mean, it would have been great if we could have, because this time, it would have been easy, because it's 2 at large. And then we could have had it codified, and then we could have had, in 2 years from now, everyone running knows that they have to be living within a certain geographical area. But we don't have that option in this version.
It just feels rushed, and anything like this, I don't think should be rushed. It should be thought out, it should be talked about, it should be well vetted, it should be inclusive. Like, it should have been a work session, because it's It's a big decision, it's a big discussion, and there's things that need to be changed probably in the wording, things that need to be added maybe if we had a chance to talk about these different things. Something like this should never be rushed and shouldn't be a week before we are supposed to make a decision. Again, a decision that I feel like is valuable and needs to happen 100%. It needs to be talked about. This is something like Mayor had said, like as he's talking to other cities and stuff like that. It's been a conversation, and so I think this needs to be had. It needs to be in a work session where we can discuss a lot of this stuff. So it's not rushed and it's not. So it's well thought out, and we're doing that due process that our residents, frankly, deserve us to do.
Do you have a council?
Yeah, by the way, if anything, this was a great exercise for me to talk to everybody. So I think I've talked to everybody on the council about
One-on-ones.
One-on-ones, yes, sorry.
Let's just put it on the record, yeah. You did it one-on-one.
A lot of emotion, not a lot of emotion, a lot of different opinions on here. I also like the people that came that have represented us before and have given their opinions. I've always been for term limits. I think it's served served at the national level really well. And I've always had one office, that's true.
One person.
And I wish that would trickle down to the other areas of our government, including, and I know I've had talks with people about why and why not, but I also think it should trickle down to the city. I am for the proposed term limits as far as, I like 3 offices, but separating the offices, I think that's a good idea, meaning if you're on the city council for whatever that is, I'm not for 4 terms, I would say 3.
3 terms, but then resetting if you switch office.
Resetting, and then also if you reset, if you take a break.
2-year break.
2-year break, whatever. I feel comfortable with that. Once again, I appreciate the opinions, and I know a lot of people have different opinions on this, but that's where I sit, so.
Okay. Councilman Carn?
Yeah, I'm really interested in the, I know it's not our agenda item, but the 3 and 2 concept. I think there's pros and cons to that over everyone at large. And so I'd like to have that conversation in the future.
Because, like, there's different needs, right? People who live in the South.
And it's not an agenda item tonight, so I don't know how much we want to discuss it. I think there's pros and cons to both, and we need to have it on, talk about it separately. 3 and 3, you're still 24 years.
Yeah.
But that's someone who does both roles.
Yeah. Yeah, only, I guess that could apply only if they change.
To mayor.
Yeah. I look around and I see some that have been doing it that long, and I just think, that's crazy.
I know I'm crazy, but I saw
Well,
passion.
I mean, like 25 years,
I still
4 years
I
is a
still
long
go
time.
to 95%
You
of
do.
all ribbon
Yes,
cuttings.
yep. Yep, that's
Well,
true.
and I'm saying,
That's when you start to see
I'm thinking 12 and 12, I'm like, man, that's a long time.
Well, it's over 2 decades, yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is if you changed A to 3 elected terms, that wording, and then 3, but it would start over if you switched roles.
And so 1AB actually still works how it's written.
Yeah, 1B works.
And
right?
I'd like to have it be December 31, 2025.
So
Is that
I want a little bit of when we
that
mentioned it's timing, why we're not doing a work session, what's the timing? What are we trying to beat to get this, what are we trying to beat that this wasn't a work session for us to discuss this stuff?
To get a referendum, to get it on the ballot so residents have final say.
You want on
Which-
the ballot this election.
Correct.
I don't want to take that away from residents, but I feel
That's
like we're
not done
rushing
by
it.
us.
No,
That's done by private citizens.
yeah.
Okay.
They've got to gather 2,500 signatures.
It's rushed. I never think we should make a decision like this with it being rushed, but that's my opinion. Of course, it doesn't have to match everybody else's.
But I'm hearing 3 and 3 with a December 31st, 2025.
I'm going to,
So how does the 3 and the 3, so we'd have to change where it says regardless of the position or office. All elected officials shall be limited to 3 elected terms in that same office.
Yeah.
And then
Out II.
take out II, and then B would, if they want to go to the same one, 2 years, is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
I move that we table business item number 11 to a future work session so we can vet it and do due process and not be rushed.
I want to, okay.
I'll second that.
I have a first from Councilwoman Barton, a second from Councilman McComber.
My only comment on that is I want to avoid the idea that it's not due process.
Due process, I'm sorry, is the improper way to say it, but a process that we usually will do in decisions like this. I mean, again, we don't do it for everything, but this is a really big decision. So I'm sorry, due process was not the right wording on that.
I just want to add that in speaking with the county clerk, and we won't be able to meet the deadline for a referendum if it's tabled. Just, that's something to be considered for the council.
For this election, but
For
in 2
this
years
election.
we could.
But it could come next year.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah. It's just, the window is very, very narrow right now. This year's ballot.
Okay. I do have a motion. Councilwoman Barton?
Is there any other discussion on it?
Oh, discuss, is there more discussion?
I mean, the only other thing I say is like, I mean, I think that something like this is something that I'd like to have that be able to go on to a ballot, but we
doesn't need to be this year.
We don't have to do it so quickly. We can have it really thought out. We can even potentially put something on the ballot next year that includes the districting and have that conversation as well. So that's why I'm voting the way I'm voting.
Councilwoman Barton?
You're
Aye.
voting.
McComber?
Aye.
Wilden?
Nay.
Carn?
Go to him.
Wadman?
I'm going to say nay. Not to, and I know, can I justify or just?
Just at the end.
Yeah, nay.
I'm going to say nay, but I want to keep talking here.
Okay, so I have a motion. It failed 3-2. I'll entertain another motion.
Do we want to have the discussion first?
Yeah, so
Discussion?
I'm, like everything else, I don't like making changes up here.
Yep.
That's been pretty consistent.
But we've always been
Kevin,
consistent.
say we bring this back in 2 weeks or something and we talk about it more and we pass it, what does that mean if it's in our code, but it is not referred this year? What does that mean?
Yeah, this is a tough one because if the state legislature can basically refer a law to the residents without voting on it, and they can just submit it for a vote without gathering signatures. So the way we're doing this is referring the law, but it has to be, the statute says that it can't come until the year 2026. However, if the county clerk and the city recorder and the city attorney agree on an accelerated timeline, you can get it on this year's ballot. But with all the noticing and all the steps that we have to take, as well as the sponsors of the referendum, there's just too many steps to fit in such a narrow time frame. I mean, it's literally like, the time frame is like, we have to do some of these things like the day of.
So Kevin, just
Making it go 2 weeks, we won't be able to meet those deadlines.
to be clear then, you're saying that the typical process would be that we would start this and it would be in 2026, but we are asking for an expedited timeframe. We're asking for an exception.
They're
rushing it.
It's not an exception in the code. It allows this to happen because think of a law that gets passed that people bring a referendum for to overturn. It is anticipated that can happen the same year, but you have to agree on an accelerated timeline to do that. So does that
But it
make
is rushed
sense?
if we don't table it.
Well,
I personally would like it on the 26th. You get a lot higher voter turnout. I'm going to hear from residents.
that's
I mean,
true.
There's so many reasons.
I know there's several referendums at the county that are happening on that timeline right now.
Yeah.
It's not,
It's because otherwise you'd have to wait, you wait a year and a half, and that's like a long time to wait. So it is allowable under the statute, but without it happening tonight, it's not going to be referable. County clerk won't allow
What
it.
difference is on our vote on a municipal election versus a federal election? About 15% increase?
I don't know.
Probably.
I want to say we had 15% for the presidential election. I think it goes down to about 12.
So we're talking.
I think it's more
But
than that.
it can change with more residents.
It is, oh, yeah, correct.
They're talking 2,000 or 3,000 people.
Yeah, I'd like to get more people involved in it.
Well, I would just, I'm not disputing anything anyone says. I guess I'm going, sorry, I interrupted you. Just going back to like my rationale, like I think most people know I'm not going to be rerunning for council. This city has set, and it has nothing to do with this, but this city is one of the best run cities, if not the best in the state. We've set the leadership in technology, we've set the leadership in water, we've set the way around how to work with developers and working through things. And our state level officials need to do something similar. We get people set up there. And this is one of the things I would like to see, but like longevity is important. And I think that's a good reason, like we have an effective date. So it allows for transitions. Putting in like, hey, 3 terms like we're talking about, I don't think that is necessarily a major thing. If we were redistricting, which beside the point whether I'm in favor of that or not, that's a totally different discussion. This saying, hey, we're going to go to 3 terms, either that, and we are going to set the example. The state needs to follow the way. We get legislators up there that sit up there for 30 years. They're not worried about the residents of the state. They're worried about getting reelected and the donors of that. We don't have that in this city, and I'm not thinking about, I actually, I don't talk about this much, but 17 years ago, I met with, was it Mayor Parker? And 5 other council members, and I was appointed to the finance committee, and I did that for 5 years. Now I've been on the council for 11 and a half, and like I've seen a lot of changes. So when I first got on there, there was what, 18,000 residents? So I'm not thinking about 18,000 residents, Saratoga Springs. I'm not thinking about even, what are we, 68, 70,000 residents? We put in an extra 16 or 12 years, whatever it is. We're talking about potentially 100,000 residents. And this is something I want to take effect when we hit 100,000. And that's why if we put an effective date at the end of this year, how many residents did we go up in the last 4 years? Was it like 30?
Double.
Insane. So us going from 70 to 100,000, I think's like, at that point, let's set the example for the state. And this is the time to do it. And it doesn't impact us sitting here. If I lose my dang mind and choose to rerun again, which isn't going to happen, my wife would kill me. We can't have another kid.
Don't want any more kids.
Yeah.
That's an inside joke.
Inside joke. Every election I've had a kid except for
Has
the last
nothing to
one.
do with staff and council.
I'm getting too old. So anyway, that's my point. I know some people, you guys might feel it's rushed. I think this, to the mayor's point, is relatively simple as we're implementing something for our future that'll take effect in 12. I was thinking 16, but it sounds like we're talking 12 when we're probably over the 100,000 mark at that point. So that's my rationale. Residents have expressed the interest to take it on there, and I want to be like supportive of their desires.
Well, that's my concern is I don't feel like we've vetted the residents enough. Maybe you have, but I feel like, because this
So
has been on there.
I was in the middle of talking.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. So that's my rationale, and it was, the mayor mentioned it in April, and that's when, we started thinking, at least me, started thinking about it, and I got comfortable with this, and we talked about the effective date, and so that's there. So I'm done. No.
You're okay. That's it.
Councilman Wadman?
So, once again, I love this process. Isn't this awesome? As the freedoms we have. I do value the opinion of maybe people don't feel like it's been discussed far enough. As far as I'm concerned, in the discussions I've had, this is one that I feel like I have a good understanding, and I want to put, not that I want to put it behind me, 'cause it's not that but anyway, I feel like I've talked my way out of this one. The second thing is, I do like the regional, breaking that up, that McComber's. But that's a different issue. That's why, yeah, that's why I'm good. That's a separate issue that we can talk about later, but I do like that. So that's where I sit. I just wanted to let my fellow where I stand and why I stand there.
So if we, even 2 weeks, Kevin, this doesn't work to like, because principally based, we made a commitment as a council that we wouldn't legislate from the bench. We wouldn't make a bunch of changes on things, but 2 weeks doesn't work.
It won't work. It's literally like the deadlines. I can show you the timeline, and it's very strict. Like some of them are the day of that we have to do this.
Yeah, I don't like making
Being 2 weeks
changes. We've
behind
done
them
it, but it's not my favorite thing.
We just did it with a developer.
Yeah.
We literally just did it
So
with the
Mayor,
developer.
you brought this, what changes are you comfortable with on this?
I'm okay with the 3, and it resets to 3 with the 2-year break that was proposed with the December 31st, 2025 start date. So the next election cycle.
So I'm comfortable with that without the 2-year break. I don't see the point in a 2-year break if they're gonna do 3 and 3.
Well, no, it'd be a 2-year break after if you took it for the same office.
Between the positions.
Yeah.
If you're on the same position, you do 3 terms, then you have to take a 2-year
Okay.
break, and then you can run again.
So we're just eliminating sorry, Lance, my
You
bad.
could go from 3 to 3.
You could.
If you did the mayor.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we would just eliminate item A, is what I'm hearing. Sorry, this is the risk management guy in me. And we're focusing on no elected official may serve more than 3 consecutive terms in the same position.
Correct.
And then
B becomes A.
B
Yeah.
becomes A, and then Mayor, on item C, where it says equal to or greater than 1/2 of the length, of the term length, could we just change that to greater than 1/2?
Yeah.
The term length, because if someone went on and like, I don't even know what the date would be, January 1st, you're just like, got appointed.
Greater.
Not that anyone's holding a meeting on January 1st, but,
Nope, that's fine.
so then that one midterm appointment doesn't like impact.
And then just a point, I mean, definitely here, I mean, again, if we do review, and I'm looking at some of the people that will be for sure here and potentially here, I actually think if someone runs for mayor midterm, they have to revoke their seat so that we can actually have an election instead of an appointment for 2 years. I actually would like to see that as part of that.
That'd be
The
part of,
redistricting
that could be part
discussion.
of
I
that.
don't think it's fair for that person to run for mayor, get it, and then we didn't get to elect someone to the city council position. We get the city council then appoint someone for 2 years. It just seems too long.
That could be
That's just a
part,
thought.
that could be part of the regional.
That part of that zoning,
Yeah.
just put that in the back of your minds as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, any other discussion?
So I'll make a motion, if you're comfortable.
I'm comfortable.
I'll move that we approve business item 11, making the following modifications to what's presented, removing item A, leaving item B, and then adjusting item C, instead of where it says equal to or greater than, just greater than.
Okay.
Did I get it, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, that's my
Oh,
first.
and an effective date of December.
With the effective date of December 31st, 2025.
Okay, I have a first from Councilman Wilden,
Second.
second from Councilman Wadman. Councilman McComber.
Aye.
Is he
We're gonna
discussing?
discuss.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
I'm really not comfortable making a lot of changes on the fly. I understand the timeline that's in place. I just want to get that out there.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye. Councilman Barton. Councilman Wadman.
Aye.
Karn.
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1 with the changes in that. I would like to, at some point, to Councilman McComber's point, because we've talked about it in the past, with the length of the city, look at districting, and your other,
For the 3, yeah.
correct, to bring that back to add to this at some point
Can I
also.
preemptively share my opinion?
Yes.
I hate districts because what happened with the school board, that's just me, like, it doesn't
No.
really matter. I just don't like what happens with the school board. We got people on the east that's what led to the school board splitting. And I know a comment, and Councilman Comber, I know you didn't mean anything by it. saying we're not representative of the city. I have like, for the last 11.5 years, made sure that every decision I'm making is not specific. And I know you didn't
You
mean that.
weren't representing, I said it's not representative of the city to have.
I know, but I'm not like arguing with you. I just want to make it clear to, like on record, like, at least for me, I am like, it doesn't matter where I live. I've always treated every decision as if, what if I lived in Saratoga Hills or Lake Mountain or Loch Lomond or whatever it is. So.
Or pickleball courts, maybe not so much, but that's okay.
So we made it through. We're getting ready to go to the work session. Public Works guys are sitting here saying our job is less dirty than you guys up here. We appreciate that thought. Thank you, Rick. I could read your mind. But we were going to take probably about a 15-minute break so that we can get ready for the work session. So thank you, and we'll